milkshake. I drink it up!
Donnie!
Yeah!
Gus German here wants to dock the country. Oblige him.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hell, I can get you towed by 3 o'clock this afternoon with nail polish.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
It's the Smoking Hot Nerds podcast. And we're live. There it is. I think so. Let's find out. Oh no, for some reason the desktop audio is not coming through. Okay, hang on. Hang on a minute. We're going to add audio input capture, mic aux, create new. Yep, I'm going to find it here. What the heck? What the? I got my mic going. Well, this is very strange. This is very strange, isn't it? Sorry, folks, don't worry about it. It's just me talking. So that's all you can hear. Yep, just me. Yeah. Okay, hang on. Let me try something here. I might have to unplug Clubhouse. Can I say something, Nico? No, just that's not it. Welcome to the Smoking Hot audio tests. Smoking Hot is a person. I know, right? Which is kind of what happens, unfortunately, too frequently. No, nobody's coming through. What in the heck is going on? All right, here we go. Advanced audio properties, desktop audio active. This is interesting. Well, I guess I'll just keep talking to keep things interesting. Welcome to the show, folks. I'm going to check and see here. Ah, there it is. Oh, I know what's going on. No, we're going to do that, and that. Now, boys, go ahead and say something. Nope, still nothing. Okay. I got this. Don't worry, folks. It's funny because I really have to go into the properties very, very rarely. And, okay, go ahead.
There you are.
There it is. Now we got it going. Yeah, now we got it going.
I don't know.
Hello?
Hang on. I gotta wait for YouTube to catch up. Talk about properties.
I'll do my little.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, it should be good. I'm a dum-dum.
No, you're not. You're smart.
Is he?
I'm telling you, man, you got the Clubhouse trying to intercept our vocal tones so they can deepfake us into sharing government secrets with the Turkmenistan government.
I believe you. Boom, boom, boom. All right. There we go. Post shared. Here we go. Ready to rock.
We got that one fan who was just on the edge of his seat, like,
which we really appreciate our listener. He or she or they are lovely.
She, him,
could be an alien.
he, her.
Could be a dog who knows how to use.
It's a bot.
Facebook. All right.
It's keyboard cat.
So we are.
He just kept typing keys, and eventually now he's listening.
It's like the monkey idea. Eventually they'll type Shakespeare, which is just stupid. I hate that theory. That's not even.
It was the
close
best
to
of
me.
times. It was the farst of times. You stupid monkeys. It was a Simpsons bit.
It's also. I was gonna say it's Thoreau. It's not Thoreau. That's what's his name. Tale of Two Cities, right? Dickens.
Oh,
that
Chucky D.
Chucky D.
The gift
that's
wrapper.
Not my forte.
Well, it's very special tonight too because of course we're live streaming on the YouTube, on the Facebook. We are recording for our Apple/Spotify broadcast, but we're also live streaming to Clubhouse, the brand new voice surveillance app. At least that's Nico's theory, is that it's a voice surveillance app. But I think it's the next TikTok, and if it is the next TikTok, we better get in on that right now because we can really build our audience.
That's right.
So anyone out there
in this day and age, man, I'm not going to argue with anything because you never know what's going to hit Reddit and then all of a sudden be worth $500.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Well, I just got on the crypto train. Are you guys doing it?
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Matt.
What?
Oh, Matt.
It's legit.
Oh, Matt.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Yeah, I'm doing all the things right now. So, as a self-employed human being, having rolled over my 401k, and now I am investing my just, normal money into a thing. I've done a lot of research into what it takes to be a competent adult, which is very, very difficult.
It's hard.
Because
That's
instead
why
of
I
just
stopped.
yeah, instead of just mindlessly just saying, "Oh, okay, 6%, throw it in, da da da," employee match or all that kind of stuff, I was like, "Well, now I got to actually know what the heck I'm doing."
Yeah.
So it's been great. So diversifying and all that kind of stuff, and it's been fantastic. I'm using.
Do you have a? I'm going to use air quotes for the listing. Do you have a guy who's like a financial manager for
I
you?
don't have a guy. No, I had thought about doing a guy, but I was also like, I'm
Have you
probably.
thought about doing a guy.
Then I thought I could do my own guy, and so that's what I'm doing. I'm just like I'm not.
And that guy's me.
Yeah, exactly. Not as stupid. I'm not that dumb. I could figure out some of this stuff, so I've been
Sure.
paying attention to
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and figuring it out. I'm using a company called Wealthfront, which big shout out if you guys want to.
Not a sponsor, but
no, I was gonna say,
good
but if you want to
people.
sponsor us, we'd take you as my sort of robo advisor. And so it's the company that I use for the IRA and then a few other investments. But it's great because it creates an entire dashboard that has literally all of your assets
okay.
listed.
Yeah.
So, like obviously the stuff that I have in there, I have an individual investment account, the IRA, a bank account, which they have a bank account as well. Then it's got listed my two other bank accounts plus my crypto investments plus my E-Trade account. So I can just see it all there, and it says, this is your net worth today, and this is your net worth at retirement, right? Not worth that much yet, but I'm working on it. So it's nice. I love it. Yeah, I love being able to
That's where
quantify
I'm
my
at.
human wealth.
It's stuff like that is good, but the advice is to not look at it every day.
Yeah, I do.
You
I
will
look
just
at it
you will
like 4
drive
times a day.
yourself insane.
Well, that's I'm sure the start. I mean, it's hard not to do initially,
Yeah.
and then time goes on. You go, okay.
Yeah.
Speak
Right
to
now, I'm
relax
loving
this a
it.
little
I'm
bit.
eating it up because I feel smarter than usual right now,
Sure.
which is nice. But I mean, my crypto investments are up $200 the last 2 days. Because crypto does that. It's a long and winding road. Now, what's your skepticism about crypto, Nico?
The skepticism of
Yeah.
crypto.
What's the eye roll on for? I'm curious.
It's like art where it is only in the value of the holder. So if at some point everyone just says, you know what, this stuff isn't worth this, it's gonna tank because there's no backing on it.
That's like the actual opposite of the idea of crypto, though. The idea is that the worth is that no one's telling it what it's worth. You know what I mean? It's money that nobody has control over other than you.
When earning,
Right.
earning it is up to an algorithm, but the sale and purchase is at the behest of both parties.
Yeah.
So
True.
you could get a reverse GameStop scenario.
But isn't that money? That's just money.
Is it
That's
what money?
currency. Currency is just
Oh,
what
I'm not
you
saying
decide
it's-
is what it's
I'm not
worth.
saying it's not a currency. It's one of those. It's also one of those things too, where if at any given moment everyone decides to sell,
Mhm.
where does that come from?
Yeah. But it's
I mean, you
all-
can say that with our currency too.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can say
the
that with
argument
stocks,
applies,
bonds,
but
all the
it's one of those things like if everyone decides to sell at once, how does that shake out?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Right. Well, how it shakes out is Reddit takes control, and
God, yeah.
everyone buys it up. And
My favorite
screws
part, and
over.
this is I like what these people did. I think it's a very interesting observation in the way that a short sale stock works. The scary part of this is all it takes is about 4 people to make about 100 times more money than everyone else does, not tell them, and then everyone loses everything.
hmm
Like it's the whole trading spaces thing from like the 80s. Like there's 5 guys that caused this huge market shift, which shorted all the hedge funds who were betting against it, who then had to pay people. It easily could have been one of those people where
they went to the hedge funds and said like, hey, you should short GameStop because it's going to fail. And they're like, great, we'll create the bonds or whatever. Then those people bought into those bonds, and then they then immediately turned around and got Reddit to jack the price through the roof so that the hedge fund people had to then pay them the short difference. So it's like I said, it's interesting and mathematically bonkers, but the fact that it could so easily be nefarious is like, goo.
Yeah. But I think it shows the power of the market in a way
100%.
that wouldn't have necessarily emerged without it. I still don't understand Reddit at all. I know more about cryptocurrency at this point than Reddit. I get on there and I just don't get it. It's like, so it's just for people who type? Like, what is it? It's not Instagram. It's not. It's message boards.
It's a message board, but
Message
super
boards,
advanced,
questions,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Just
But then they're like,
highly functional
just
message boards.
an open,
yeah. I don't know. I don't
a
like it. It's
bazillion
messy.
Different. It is funny though when I try and look up something and I'm like, oh, let me check Reddit, and Reddit's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, oh, how did Reddit not have this conversation 10
Right.
times over?
Well, but the problem with Reddit that I've encountered, and I've not used it that much, is so say I do have, like, say something's going wrong in, like, I'm working in editing something and something keeps causing Premiere to fail or whatever.
Yep.
Do a little Google search. Usually it takes you to a Reddit post where someone's had that problem. And you go in and it's like, hey guys, I've been trying to export this .mov in ProRes 422. I don't know what's going on. Can you help me? And then there will be semi-helpful guy first, guy with question 2, and then guy 3 is, why are you such a stupid dum-dum? So that's how it is. It's always like kind of helpful,
no matter what the question
moderately
is,
helpful.
right.
Why are you so stupid? Like, that's just how it always breaks down. So it's so annoying because everyone's such an a-hole on Reddit.
Well, yeah, the percentage of people that insist on needing to be a-holes at all time on the internet.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The real question is, are the people who are a-holes on the internet always a-holes, or are they just like, all right, I've been a good person all day, bleh, one thing, and then I'm off to bed?
Yeah, it might be. Well, did I ever tell you about my Reddit experience, like early on, a year ago, when I was like, okay, I'm gonna like start putting a little more into the YouTube channel. I know that getting some steam on Reddit with like photos and things can kind of help out the YouTube channel. So I posted a couple of pictures, and one was a picture that I did of a shoot, and it's like, it's just, it wasn't like a crazy model picture, but it was a kind of, a picture like that of a girl posing. And the first person that commented on it was like, this isn't effing Instagram, you mother effing SOB. And I was just like, it's a picture. Like, I'm showing you the picture that I took with this particular camera on this camera's like Reddit thread. And then I posted another picture of my, I forget what it was even, but it was like, they just ripped it to shreds. And I'm just like, and so I asked a guy, so I typed the question back. I said, why can't you just say something constructive, ? And his only response was, because this is the internet, MFer. And I was like, I'm off Reddit forever. Thank you very much. I don't need this negativity in my life. Get out of my face.
I don't need you.
I'm happy with
2
my
hours
1,500
later, you're
subscribers.
driving around. I don't need him.
I just think Reddit's just a place for a-holes.
I know it is a black hole of information to the point where you can get in there and 8 hours just disappear. And also like, oh God, what?
I've never done that.
You've never? Oh no, I know people
Not
that
on Reddit, yeah.
that there's like, you talk to them and basically the conversation is, if you could verbalize posting a link to Reddit, that was the conversation with somebody. Like, oh, on Reddit this, and I saw like, this is just an email with you copying and pasting links.
Right.
To me.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
It's so weird, man. I don't know. I don't get it. But what I do get is Draft Day. The 2016 Ivan Reitman
Seamless.
film starring Kevin Costner, Jennifer Garner, Chadwick Boseman, Terry Crews, featuring Ellen Burstyn, amongst other actors and actresses and people you may or may not have heard of.
Comedians
Tom Welling. Tom Welling got billing on the poster. Dude's in the movie for 14 seconds. I don't know
Did
what
he
that was
really?
all about.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What about what's the coach, the comedian? What's his
Oh,
name?
yeah. Guy from Burn Me.
Yeah,
Oh. Is it
Rescue
Bernie?
Me. Rescue.
Rescue Me. Yeah, what is this? Oh man, that's bad.
Yeah, he's Mr. Boston ripped off. What's his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dennis Leary.
There
Dennis
it is.
Leary. Yeah. The other Bill Burr.
Hey,
He was
maybe
probably Bill Burr first.
Yeah.
maybe I don't want to coach this team. Maybe I want to have a 20-ounce ribeye. Hey, maybe I want high cholesterol. I don't want this team. Here, let me coach it. Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It's an interesting little film. Second time I've seen it. I saw it when it first came out.
I never watched.
Did you guys see it? No?
Till,
Yeah.
Till 2 nights ago.
Yeah. So your first time, Eric, what was your first?
First timer.
Yeah.
It took me a hot second to get into it.
Yeah.
Because the shooting style and even some of the early acting, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a long night. Then it got there.
Yeah. How so,
It-
though?
Yeah.
How so was it like, oh boy?
The Seahawk coach, I don't know. I was having a rough time with him.
Just a lot.
And yeah. And then I noticed right off the bat, it's like Ivan Reitman stopped watching other movies at like, I don't know, mid 90s or something. I
Totally.
feel like the way he just shot this movie,
Yeah.
there weren't that many close-ups. And if you would tell me that he shot this movie in like 31 days, I'd be like, I buy it.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an office
He did not
building
get much
built
coverage.
on a soundstage with all the daylight lights poking in. Probably not even green screen. I think it was just like a piece of paper that looked like a football field outside of his window.
Sure, yeah, it's just
Yeah. They're like, we have to save the budget for the actual draft because we're shooting there a day before
New
the
York
draft
City,
happens.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit bonkers. Oh, 100% when the movie opens, the music, the sweeps of the city, it's all like you couldn't have nailed it on the head better. It's as if everybody who was involved in the movie stopped making movies in about 1996, and they were just like, this is how movies are made forever.
Yeah.
And that's the style of this movie. Yeah, for sure.
I'm not mad at it
then-
though.
Right.
with
Yeah.
But then with like kind of distracting, but I guess it makes its own thing where there's like the split screens and all of a sudden they're walking into the other screen kind of. And it's like they've been cut out and they're freely walking around throughout these various backgrounds, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It was the Ocean's 11
Yeah.
or Guy Ritchie thing where they'll swing in another scene that's happening simultaneously, or if I'm talking to you, they would do a split screen of the conversation like on the phone. But then, yeah, it was like they would also then
Yeah, then his arm would
Photoshop
bleed
his arm
into
over
yeah.
the other guy's frame. Yeah, it was very interesting.
That's one of the things I like about it, that it has kind of like a comic book feel
Hmm.
in that style. Where
Yeah,
right,
it's true.
like they just smashed the wall and said, we're just gonna throw in a bunch of at least for the most part they kept that through the whole movie. So it's not like they had an idea once and then did it for like 2 scenes and then we never came back to it. At least they did it through almost the whole film.
Yeah.
So I kind of dug that because it was just an interesting visual decision that was I wasn't mad at.
Mm-mm.
I wouldn't
No, I
have
didn't hate
expected
it.
it from this type of movie. So it was kind of like, oh, that makes it a little unique.
Right. Yeah. It tied in a touch to the kind of hokiness a little bit, but yeah, it was fine. It stands out.
Mhm.
It's a unique
Yeah.
thing.
And if anyone asks you what is the movie about, you just point them to the title because that's literally all it's about.
Or
It's-
Yeah.
AKA Kevin Costner's got a lot of stuff happening on this day.
Right,
A
right.
big day for him.
Yeah. I'm hard pressed nowadays in my movie watching life to start to feel compelled to get involved in very wealthy, privileged people's lives. Like that's why Coppola movies don't really do it for me anymore. That's why like this movie was a rough one where I'm just like, oh no, you knocked up Jennifer Garner and you're really, really rich and you run a football team. Like you're not giving me a lot to work with to begin with. And so there was that, but this movie is so damn linear. It's literally you're on the clock the entire movie,
Yep.
and there's absolutely no finessing it. It's just point A is you wake up in the morning, and point B is the frickin' draft, and that is all you're gonna get out of this movie, which is interesting. Not a lot of movies are like that much of a super straight line anymore.
Right, but I think it was necessary. Like it would have been very disjointed to have like a flashback in the
Right.
when the clock is such a consistent measured part. It's its own character in this movie. You can't reverse the clock. Like you can't back it up to something. Like the fact that
Can't you?
Oh,
well, I mean,
I would do a let's and then have a narrator pop up. That's
yeah. I mean, they could
Ron
have. You're right,
Howard.
but I think that was just in order to keep the pressure of time as its own character. It had to be there and in your face the whole
ticking
time.
clock. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, it starts at what 12 hours till somewhere in
It's
there.
Yeah,
something. Yeah, it's like
that.
14 hour or whatever because I think the draft is at like 7 and he woke up at 7 a.m. So yeah, maybe it was 12 hours or something like that. Because it's weird because like the draft is in New York City, but then they have Seattle, which is like a 3-hour time difference. And I think that's only just to make it like they have to wake him up when he's sleeping in his office and it's like 4 a.m. for him. Like, what?
Yeah.
Right. I forgot.
I think
the
that was
very
just a
beginning.
part of it. Yeah. To like add some
Give you that
interesting
sense.
dynamics to it. Do
The
you want to
coach
synopsis
thing-
this guy?
Yeah, for sure.
You want me to do it since I recommended draft day?
Go for it.
Okay, so draft day, as we talked about, it takes place. It follows the day of the NFL draft for Sonny Weaver Jr., played by Kevin Costner, who is not a rookie general manager for the Cleveland Browns, but is new to the Browns in under 3. I think this is his 3rd season with the Browns.
Yeah.
So you think you're just walking into a struggling team trying to manage its draft, and then you find out things like he was a successful GM for San Francisco, which then got him the job in Cleveland. Cleveland came with some baggage of his father was the head coach, and then there's this rumor that only a year ago he had to fire his own father, and then a week before the draft his father died. So there's this additional stress. You find out that he has a relationship with Jennifer Garner, who you think is just a girl in the beginning. You know, it's not clear what she does until you find out that she is basically the CFO of the Cleveland Browns organization. She manages the cash and the salary cap, et cetera, et cetera. So he has to work with her, but our introduction with those two is definitely like the standard boyfriend girlfriend fight. And what you come to find out is that she's pregnant and he didn't react positively or correctly to that scenario. And then you get like the hotshot ex NFL coach, Super Bowl champion coach who's brought in to manage the team. You've got a beautifully cast owner who is he's a little highfalutin for being the owner of the Cleveland Browns. So that part was a little like easy there, tough guy.
But
Frank
I mean,
Langella.
if you're the owner of a team that hasn't been good in forever, what else are you doing but going, I own an NFL team?
Right.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Pat
I
Bowlen always
do and
wore
you
furs all the time. You know, I think people are actually more exuberant sometimes when they're in smaller markets because you have a lot. If you have a lot of money in Cleveland, it's a lot more money than a lot of money in LA. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And there's no one around you to show you style.
Yeah.
Right.
We can go into what they did when they moved
So
to
you
Vegas.
just wear brown stuff.
Right. So continuing on. So it comes down to the draft day, and the owner basically tells Sonny Weaver Jr., you need to make a splash to get this organization to put people in seats. So his interpretation of that is I got to do something crazy. So that's where Seattle comes in. Seattle has the number 1 pick There's a blue chip quarterback that's, you know, everyone, he's a Heisman Trophy winner. Everyone can't stop talking about him. So Sonny basically deals away the first 3 year or the first round draft pick for 3 years for this single one number one pick. And then in doing so, it obviously ruffles a bunch of feathers amongst the staff because they do the scouting reports and the head coach, certain things like, and then he tells them what they gave away, and then they're pissed because it's like, that was too much regardless. Like, why would you, da 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 da. So it starts the whole conflict of the team versus Sonny versus what he wants versus what they want, which is, creates interesting dynamics throughout the whole thing. But then they start to investigate this quarterback and say, like, he might be the number one, but why? And, like, if he's legit, we didn't think he was a possibility for us. Now we need to do the research. And now they start to find out, like, maybe something's not as good on paper as it sounds. So then that's all just the build up to right before the draft. Like, that's all the drama. So people find out he has the number one pick. People go on Twitter and start blowing him up. He's getting calls from people saying, like, oh, well, you're clearly taking this quarterback. What's your quarterback up to? And then, like, the existing quarterback has a hissy fit in his office, and because I guess he was injured last season. So there's all this dynamic of, like, what the number one pick has now created for this entire organization. Just the mayhem generated from this one decision. That's like parts 1 and 2 of this movie. And then, like,
Right.
the last 15 minutes or whatever is this high-paced, just super output of the draft. And then, they make their decision, and then that throws everything into chaos again. So it's spoiler alert, the movie's been out for a bit. They don't pick the quarterback. He picks somebody else, which then infuriates all of his staff. But then that throws all the other teams into a tizzy of, like, whoa. Why
is this guy still
why
available?
yeah why is he
what do
still
we do?
available? What is wrong? What don't you know? So he's got people calling him and he's turning them away. But then he gets this idea of, I can still get our original picks back. I'm going to put pressure back on the guy in Seattle who took him from me. I'm going to figure out how to get him back. And in doing so, he contacts the pick right before them, and, like, there's a deal. So all that stuff works out, and then, super happy ending, whatever. But they get their picks, they get them all back, and the history is saved, and the da 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 da. And it's a good. I dig it.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
good.
For me, it's like that hard 3. I don't know if I would borderline it, like, on the edge of a 4. I'm not sure what I would nominate it for, other than maybe, like, I don't know. Would it be? What would you call the decision to use, like, the split?
Just editing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like maybe editing, sound design.
The editor went, I'm bored.
Yeah. That's
I'm
what
gonna
it felt
do
like.
this.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to call that,
I
like,
should have
production
been
design
on Spider-Man
or
2.
Yeah.
it's not a cinematography thing, so it's not like that. But but no, it's mega good, and it's one of my favorite football, non-football movies. Like, they don't play any football in it. The reason I like it is logistics, is just the pure the machinations that happen to get the pick that's made, what that does,
Right.
the maneuvering once the pick has been made to get them back in, like, all of that, like, conversation, dealing, wheeling, dealing, how that all goes and pans out. All that stuff is just mega exciting. And for me, and it's just it's real good. So I'll dive right in then. So my favorite moments, I guess my favorite moments is the wheel and deal of, like, how he maneuvers all that stuff around from they had a seventh pick. They were 7th, and they moved that up to 1st, and then they threw it away. But I love that the whole draft part is my favorite. The cringy parts for me are the level of angry emotion that Kevin Costner has sometimes, and particularly it's the scene with him and Brian Drew. Brian Drew is the current quarterback, and Brian Drew has just trashed his office.
Played by Tom Welling,
who thinks that because they got the number 1 pick, he's going to draft a quarterback, which means he's out. He's out of a job. So he trashes his office, and he's down in the weight room, and Sonny Weaver goes down to talk to him. It's just that whole conversation. It just kind of felt like they were on the verge of swinging on each other, but both of them were professional enough not to. So it had like a weird vibe of like Kevin Costner should have been one of those like, you just trashed my desk. In any other environment, you're fired. But I don't want to fire you, but I also don't want to tell you what I'm about to do because I know what I'm going to do. But I don't want you to know what I'm going to do because I need to control the flow of information today. Like, I'm sick of everyone telling me what the best idea is when it's my job to have the best idea.
Right. Just
so
let me do my job.
That
the thing he kind of said throughout the movie.
That portrayal of emotion for me is a little cringy because it was like, man, you should be a lot more pissed about this. And he was just kind of like on Xanax. It was just a very like angry emotion.
Yeah.
For me. So for me, it was kind of like, maybe reshoot that one. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah. It was, I love the NFL. I love football. I love the draft. Like, I just think all that's really cool because it's really interesting how, so the last player in the draft, which is like number 246 or whatever it is, they call Mr. Irrelevant. But what I find interesting is that in so many ways, the draft itself is irrelevant in terms of who gets taken who, because that just doesn't really determine how good the player is actually going to be, or if they're going to have an
brought
entire
up numerous times,
right.
Too.
Yeah,
it's brought up over and over and over again about who was first, what round, what they're doing now. Like that's not ignorant in the conversation of this film, and I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's super important, and it's crazy.
Yeah, and one of the things that's brought up early in the movie, but that is an actual reality, is you've got a lot of players going into the NFL who, coming out of college, so this is the first year coming up that college players are going to be able to get compensated for doing commercials and things like that, college athletes. So what's interesting
changes
is
the whole game.
Which changes everything. Yeah. Because what you've got right now, as it currently stands, is where you get drafted determines your rookie contract to an extreme that makes a massive impact on low-income kids coming out of college and going into the NFL. So getting drafted number 1 overall or last overall is going to make a huge difference in how much money that guy gets, but it doesn't change how hard they have to work. And that's what's really interesting about it, is 250 guys get drafted every year, and then, a handful get picked up undrafted. But the thing is, they all have to work equally hard, but there's a huge amount of money to be made by getting drafted in the top 10, top 20. So that's part of the conceit of the movie, is Chadwick Boseman's character is probably going to go number 7, which is a fantastic number. And that's the Browns and Kevin Costner's team's initial draft pick spot.
It's like a linebacker.
Yeah, he's a linebacker. So, think of him as like a Von Miller type of guy. Top 10 for sure, could completely transform a defense. But what Kevin Costner's character knows, and what we know by the end of the movie, is that he wants him completely 100%, but he ends up taking him number 1. And one of the reasons he kind of does that is because Chadwick Boseman is taking care of his nephews, who are his deceased sister's kids. He just got a lot going on in life that he kind of has certain level of compassion, but he also thinks that he's the best player to take.
There's another component of that too, though, is the Ray Jennings, is the running back whose father played for the Browns. So Kevin Costner is played by Terry Crews, right? So he's in a situation where he needs to make a decision that's best for the team. And in his mind, the best decision for the team is Vontae Mack, the linebacker, to shore up the defense. But his staff's best mind, which includes his coach, is I need a running back who is Ray Jennings. So he's stuck in the situation of, I'm not going to get both.
Right.
Like, there's no way I'm getting both. Either I get Ray Jennings at 7 and then somebody snags Vontae right after that, or vice versa. I get Vontae at 7, but then Ray Jennings is gone right after that. So it's like he's in that situation of, he really needs 2 first-round picks to satisfy all of his quote unquote perceived needs for the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And none of those perceived needs are that number 1 quarterback.
Right.
Outside
Exactly.
of just when it leaks, then the city's going crazy, going, wow, we're going to get the number 1 quarterback. Right. And the owner's going, yeah, my boy, all right.
And it's interesting because they did the writing of the script set it up really well, because they set it up as, I think this is Tom Welling who plays the current quarterback of the Browns. He just came off of a really bad injury. He's apparently better than ever. And I think they said he was in his 6th or 7th year. So that's like such a legitimately crazy time for a quarterback coming off of a thing. Like, he's dead center of a career, because careers are usually like 12 to 15 years if you're like super healthy. So he's like right in that middle ground where a team is just like, do we rebuild with this superstar rookie, or do we stick with our already injury prone quarterback? So that was an interesting thing. Yeah. I mean, I thought Costner played the pressure incredibly well. I thought he really nailed like what it's like to be under the gun like that, through the whole thing.
And that's why that scene in the locker room really bothered me the most, is because every other scene in which the pressure is on is felt just like genuinely great.
Well, to me, the reason I liked that scene in the locker room is because Tom Welling loses his mind over the fact that it looks like they're going to draft his replacement. But Kevin Costner has no intention of doing that, but he can't show his hand. So he's just you need to, but he's still pissed at him because he, trashed his office. So he kind of has to have this thing where it's like, I can't let him know that I'm keeping him, but I also have to let him know that that's not okay. So it's kind of this weird middle ground, which I appreciated a lot.
A little like a dad moment too.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I love you, buddy, but you can't do this right now.
Right.
Just let me do my thing.
Exactly.
Stay over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a favorite moment for sure for me was, and it's funny because the whole movie is just like, you're watching, and the whole movie I'm just like, yeah, this is a good movie. Like, I'm nothing to write home about, but also would recommend 100% to anybody who wanted to watch it, because it's an absolutely perfectly non-offensive movie. There's nothing in it that you're just like, I don't know if I want someone to see that or whatever. But the best moment is when they draft Vontae Mack, Chadwick Boseman's character, first round. I was just like, it felt really good inside. I think there's a lot going on though in that. For one, his character decided to stay home in like Mississippi or wherever he was from,
Virginia,
instead of go to New York to be around his family, which I thought was awesome. But it's also just like, Chadwick Boseman having passed away so young of cancer, and his character playing somebody who was taking care of his kids because his sister died of cancer young. It was just like this real moment where it's just like, I can't believe that this freaking guy is gone. Like, this unreal talent is just not here anymore. Like, that's just, is so that I think that amplified that moment. The most cringy moment, hands down, is early in the movie when you don't know what's going on yet between Jennifer Garner and Kevin Costner. You don't even know if they're like married or why is she in his house? Like, what's going on? Is she the housekeeper? Like, you don't know. Right. And then she leaves and she gets into a Camaro. And I was just like, come on. Like, I know GM is the sponsor of this, or Chevy is, because he's got a big old Chevy truck, and they racked their brains to figure out what kind of car does she drive, because she doesn't drive an Impala, so what are we going to give her to make it look like she's an accountant for an NFL team? So they gave her a Camaro.
What's the luxury car,
which is not the car that she drives. It's just like, she looks so awkward in that. I was just like, ugh, product placement at its worst.
Like, all right, now let me get in my secret transformer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Starburst,
in high heels and a pencil skirt. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was a bit much for the product placement. But I was also thinking about it, like, I think the best thing that she could have driven would be like the Chevy Volt or something. Like, that would be like pretty much the only other option in the Chevy lineup in 2016. Yeah, to make it look legit. So But otherwise, yeah, I thought it's a really, really good movie and definitely recommendable, like 100% across the board. So what do you think, Eric?
I did like it.
Yeah.
Like I say, aside from that kind of having to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about cringe, but something that's coming to mind was like the amount of things that Kevin Costner's character has to juggle emotionally and mentally during this one day gets at some point like to start cracking me up. I don't know if it's around when the mom's insisting also that the ashes must be spread
Oh my
on the
God.
practice field,
Yeah.
which has been named after the dad, the coach who was fired. And
It's a lot.
he's freaking
That's my
out.
second. That's my second cringe moment.
Yeah.
Because of all things, she understands the importance of that day,
Right. Yeah.
and it wouldn't just be like, "What? It's just a Saturday." Like, no, it's not. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not.
Right. But even that, you get the sense that she's just a horrible person.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're like, of course she's doing this to him just because she just wants him to be miserable, I guess.
Yeah.
She's just one of those people.
Oh, I've forgot my other cringe moment. As you guys know, I hate food eating in all things involving microphones. And the beginning when the Seattle Seahawks coach calls Kevin Costner to make the trade and he's eating pancakes. But usually in movies, a director or somebody is like smart enough to rein it in. It's usually a continuity thing. So they're just like, okay, have a bite, and then we're going to do the rest of the scene without eating. Not in this movie. He just kept on eating, and it was disgusting. And I was almost like, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah, I don't know.
Reverse Jeffy moment.
Yeah. Right. Then we shut it off because I'm angry at the eating. I'm just here eating my pancakes. Smack, smack, smack. It's just like, get
Well,
out
too,
of
because
it.
they're totally making this character thing like, I'm just going to use and abuse you, Mr. Brown's GM.
Right,
What are you gonna
right,
do about it?
exactly.
You're going to sit here and take it while I eat my pancakes. Deal with it.
Yeah.
And Kevin Costner's character in that moment's like, hey, I'm no pushover. Okay. I'll take the
do it.
deal.
Yeah.
Or no, does he not? He
He,
doesn't.
he doesn't take the first
And
one because
then
it's he calls him back. Well, because it's important for that whole conversation is important for two reasons. One, because it sets up the severity of the deal, but two, because it creates two callbacks that they use later.
Right.
At the beginning, so the initial trade offer is first round this year, first round next year, and then I think like a second or third round in the third year. And he's like, I don't know, man. And then he calls him back and says, like, I want your first rounders for the next 3 years. He's like, come on, that was the deal this morning. And then his line is something effective like, we live in a different time than we did 30 minutes ago.
Right.
And then that comes back later when he reverses the trade deal on Seattle. And then he also calls him a pancake eating motor trucker, which is super funny.
Right. Yeah, it's great, but it's sort of what you would expect from Ivan Reitman, like a really good, non-offensive movie. Just
Right.
just a lovely,
A
delightful
couple
little,
of swear words, but not enough
John-
to get an R rating.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that stuff, is neither here nor there. Like, it's more just like this movie isn't gonna. There's nothing political. There's not. It's like there's no
Only
one.
like 4 penises. I
Yeah,
think, in
yeah.
the movie.
Only 4, just shy of the 5 penises in
Yeah.
Groundhog Day.
That's gonna score you that
Yeah.
PG-13.
It was mad cameo heavy though. It had some heavy hitting going on.
Yes.
like
like
NFL
s-
cameos.
Well, there's a little bit of
Even
that, but
on.
even just like the random stars, like Kevin Costner's ex-wife is an Arquette, and
Oh yeah,
I want to say Joanna, but that's not right.
Trisha.
Trisha Arquette, yeah, Patricia Arquette, and then the
I don't
That's
think
not
it
right either?
was.
Not
No,
Patricia Arquette.
it's the other one. Sorry,
it
it's the
was
one from
Kimmy
Whole Nine
Arquette.
Yards, who also plays an ex-wife in that movie too. And then like Sam
I
Elliott as the
As the
coach
coach.
for
Right.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Forgot about Sam Elliott. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a good little bit.
I've never
there's
seen him in so little clothing. He always plays a cowboy with like shirts and
9
scarves
layers.
and,
Yeah,
and
you just see
dusters
how
and stuff.
scrawny he is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, long and lean.
Yeah.
Like beef jerky.
Yeah. Snap into me.
But like anytime they get snap in a nice little cameo, yeah, because you've got Excuse me. So they actually used the NFL draft. I mean, the commissioner was there. They had like Deion Sanders was there. They had a bunch of other stuff, and then they had I'm trying to think of the guy's name. It'll come to me later. But and then like Puff Daddy is the agent. Sean Puffy Combs. Sorry.
The agent of the number one quarterback.
The agent of the number one quarterback, who's kind of like a slimy agent, which is like a perfect casting.
Right. And they like he's in it just enough. Like he maybe has 10 lines. Like it's just enough where it's like he doesn't really have to do anything.
Right.
He has to be like, yeah, do this. Yeah, okay. What'd you say?
But you can tell he's trying, which is nice. You're like, oh, okay, he's trying to be a good actor in this scene.
Well, right, and they gave him a good role and a good direction of like, I know you've dealt with sleazy agents.
Yeah.
So embody that, be that guy, and just do that. And he was like, okay.
Done. I love watching people who aren't actors but are famous act poorly. Like that's like my favorite thing. My second favorite thing. My favorite thing is extras mugging the camera, looking directly to camera. That / overly gestury extras. Like that's like two of my favorite things in the world.
Like the guy at the NFL draft when they pull the camera back from everyone taking the little notes, and the guy's literally just like
just
points
staring
right into the camera.
But it's Roger Goodell in this one. There's the bit where Franklin Gellick comes into the room and he's like, Mr. Commissioner, and he couldn't have timed his turn better, like worse. He like just late, and then he shakes his hand, and then you can see the corner of his eye trying to find the camera while he turns back like a robot to the guy he's talking to. It's like, well, that was the most not at all natural way to say hi to anyone ever.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird. I could hear hydraulics noises.
It was like the commissioner of the NFL, played by Bumblebee.
The one thing when you brought him up was when every time he walks out, I was like, shouldn't he get booed way more if we're really going to do this?
Yeah.
But I'm sure they're like, hey, be in our movie. Well, we got to be authentic. So everyone
there was some boos. There was a little bit. Yeah, there were some, but they were definitely like from the fourth tier.
Yeah,
it wasn't down low.
Layered, where you could just even tell them if he watched the movie, be like, oh no, I think that's just the bass. No, that's the bass from the cheering.
I love it. I love I think non-actors who do. It's interesting because he meets famous people all the time. He's like basically famous himself, but just can't be relaxed in front of a camera. It's like all you got to do is shake hands and say hi, good to see you again. That's it, and then you're good. Then you're out.
It's really funny too because
but that makes it worse.
Right? Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah.
Because then you're thinking about two
Yeah.
words.
Yeah.
The
True.
direction was
worse.
probably like, all right, you're playing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the owner of the Cleveland Browns walks in. You know him. What do? Oh, hey, good to see you. Good cut. I don't need anything more.
Of the Browns? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, hold on.
What's up, you idiot?
What's up, losers?
But it is funny because you're right. It's like, if anything, they could just be like, listen, we're just going to walk through this one time. It's really easy. The camera's not even on. Camera's on. And just,
I do that
he's
all
going
the
to come
time.
in. Okay, just walk in, say hello. No. Okay, cut. We're moving on. Like, that's all you have to do. I'm not a professional director by any stretch of imagination, but I would imagine convincing someone that the camera's not even on and then just to be themselves is how you capture.
I do it all the time. Because I do so many interviews with people who freak out when the camera's on. So got a little thing going where
you just need a fake
I start
red light.
rolling because I'll always slate at some point in time. So I'll just start rolling, and so I have matte boxes, on the front of the camera, in front of the lens, for like flares and put filters in and stuff. So I got. And the French flag on the top covers the blinking light that says it's recording. So I hit record on the cameras, and then I just kind of fiddle around, and then the lady who's doing the interview just asks questions. People are just like, oh, I love the company, blah, blah, so great. Oh, you guys are the best. And then we're like, okay, so are we ready? Okay, slate, ready. So introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been with the company. Robot.
Right.
Enact. So I use
Because
all the
now
time.
it matters,
Right.
Oh, the camera, I'm being watched by a camera that's immortal, catching me for all time. Ugh.
Totally. So all the time I use the stuff, the when we're not rolling stuff. It's
Oh, sure.
fantastic. Yeah.
You also just say, "Here, have some of this drink. What's in it? Just drink it. Just drink it. Just drink it.
Just put it in your mouth.
Sodium pentothal. It's truth time.
You're gonna love it. Trust me.
Got him.
Yeah. I really want you to get caught doing that, Nico. Like just reading an article about the deposition. So he started his own video company and then slipped people truth serum and then recorded them and then blackmailed them.
It'd be the least nefarious way of doing it.
Yeah.
Like, were you in a hotel room? Nope. Just doing interviews.
Went
Well,
to
what
their
happened
place of
after?
business.
I went home. That's about it.
Got the dirt on them.
What was I
and
supposed to do?
Together, backed
Yep.
it up in 5 different places. And
We're good to go. Oh boy. Well, so 3 out of 5. Yeah.
It's that's
Yeah,
where
yeah, sure.
the recommendation system kind of falls apart. But I've explained before that it's like a bell curve
Mhm.
where you're gonna get a lot of 3s, and this is a hard 3. This is like
Yeah.
if you went all the way up to 3.9 before you hit 4, this is a 3.9.
Right.
Like,
Totally.
it's on the verge of being nomination worthy, in the sense of all things. But it's definitely one. You're right. You nailed it. You could recommend this movie to anybody
Everybody. Yeah.
because it's like they said, there's nothing offensive, and it's not even like so football oriented that
Mhm.
people that aren't aware of football are gonna be like, I hate this.
yeah, it's because
It's
yeah,
business.
It's much
It's
more
just-
just a
it's
business.
business.
Deal. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
everyone understands getting a better position in business. Everyone knows what that looks like, what that feels like. Sometimes the sacrifices you got to make, the sticky spots you get into. Everyone gets that. But the other part that's great about it too is that he does have a lot of exterior stuff going on, but it's not so heavy that his task is impossible.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, it's not like he's dying.
Yeah.
And his his heart's gonna stop at the end of the draft. It's not like that at all. He's
Well, I
he's
think
just got some
that's-
general life nonsense that he's working through, and I think
And
everyone would be
once-
like, yeah, I've got stuff.
Once he learns that his cat has AIDS, I was like, this guy's really having a tough day.
It's a
His
tough
dad's
one.
coming at him.
Draft day or AIDS day? What is it today? I don't want to come across like I'm like Captain Negative about all this stuff, but one of the other things that like always kind of irks me in movies is when they write dialogue that tries to make a person sound super smart about a thing that you can kind of tell the actor doesn't know anything about. And there was like a couple of those moments with Jennifer Garner where the idea was like she loves football. It's what she's like a girl in a guy's sport and that kind of stuff. But there was just that moment where he's like, "Do you remember the Browns Chiefs playoff game in 1982?" She's like, "Do I?" John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith had the ball with 2 minutes to go on the 5-yard line, and starts rattling off all of these facts that she could have been describing how like the
Any
engine in her
game.
car runs. It would have sounded just as convincing because you just didn't know. You're just like, you don't know what you're talking about, and like I hate it when they try to like make people rattle off. So well, even like I watched Fury the other day, which I love that movie. I think it's awesome, but there's always that weird moment like Shia LaBeouf's character knows the Bible really well. And he's like this, so he'll rattle off Bible verses. And then Brad Pitt at some point in time is like Isaiah 52:12. And then he finishes the verse and you're just like, Ugh. Like, don't.
That's such a common thing where it's just like, really?
Yeah.
One person drags out some obscure thing, and
Yeah.
then the other person finishes it because
Yeah.
he's
I
a
mean, maybe it's
robot.
just my memory, but I mean, that's my bachelor's degree is in Bible. I've read it cover to cover 2 times, and I don't remember any of the verses. Maybe like John 3:16, and that's about
Maybe
it.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. 4.
3:16.
The Lost book.
Yeah. I just think that's so
Yeah,
weird. It's weird stuff in movies, and it's the kind of dialogue that kind of pops me out of it for a second. But you know, I'm not a screenwriter, so I've
Well,
not made
it's
billions
yeah,
of
it's
dollars
trying.
making movies.
You're making your character Superman. Like I even felt that with that last Indiana Jones movie. Quick tangent, but it's like there's the most random thing that Shia LaBeouf's character is talking about, and Harrison Ford comes over, is like, yeah, let me start reading ancient Mayan. All right, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Let me look over here at this other random thing that's way over here. I know everything about it. I'm Indiana Jones, idiots. I'm a super genius. You're like,
I'm Sam Elliott, idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it gets a little bit too, because I don't think
Maybe
there's
he
a lot of
doesn't
people who
know
wrap
everything.
off knowledge like that. But hey, you know,
Yeah.
it's movie, and that's fine. That's what
The
we
fun
Right.
part about that conversation, though, isn't that's the John Candy discussion, isn't it? With Joe Montana.
Oh, yeah, it's
That's
one
why,
of them.
That's why
yeah.
to me it's so funny. It's because he brought up the game. She gave like the well actually blah, 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 and he's like, no, I was gonna tell this funny story about how he noticed John Candy in the stands. Who cares about the rest of that? He's just basically like, shut up, nerd.
Yeah.
I got this great
Right.
story about John Candy.
Yeah. But overall, great little movie. Love it.
I've seen it
Definitely worth it.
multiple times just
Yeah.
because it's a nice, smooth, easy movie.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's got, like you said, it's super linear, which is nice. So you're never gonna be like, what did I miss?
Mhm.
You know, or like, when is this happening? Or who's this person now? Like there's never any of
Where's
that.
hour 9 to
Yeah,
hour
I'm
8?
missing, bruh.
Yeah.
Don't these guys ever eat food?
Yeah.
When do they poop?
Right. Exactly. Like the show 24, where there's one episode where it's just him on the can, like,
It's Kiefer pooping. I do like though that the teams that were terrible teams in 2014, like the Browns and the Bills, are good teams now, and like competing teams. So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. And 2014 though, I'm trying to think, when did the Broncos win the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning? That would have been
Right around there.
right
that
around
the
there.
year?
oh
they
yeah,
got
they're plus or minus. Yeah.
destroyed.
Because they were like number 6 in the draft in this movie, but I think in 2014 they would have been somewhere in the
The bottom,
runnings.
unless they traded in. Yeah.
So I think it was 14,
It's-
15.
it's-
And
something.
they're
it's
referenced.
It's really funny because it's
Well, Super Bowl 50, so yeah, it would have been
It's 50,
2015,
yeah, I'm
right?
looking it up.
Yeah.
Is that one?
that they
Yep, 15.
Yeah.
they did a good smattering of teams, and I'm sure there was
Yeah.
some crazy. When Ivan Reitman went to get this, he probably went to the NFL and be like, "Listen,
yeah.
I need 6 teams."
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily need to be congruent. Like Kansas City looking for a quarterback at that time wasn't necessarily a thing. Seattle looking for a quarterback. I can't remember if that was the Russell Wilson era or
It
not.
was. Yeah, he was already
Right.
their
So-
quarterback by
so
then.
there's that kind of thing where you're like,
Yeah.
they weren't trying to lean on current or like trying to be like, this is a snapshot of what the NFL looked like in 2014.
Right.
This just happens to be the year in which we're shooting this movie.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no, aside from Tom Brady, do they talk about any current?
Well, that's the funny gag too, and that's why the whole speech about the people being drafted first versus last is really good. Is because Tim Tebow makes a cameo, which is hilarious.
Oh, is he in it? Really?
He's when Sonny goes down to confront Brian
praying in
Drew.
the back.
Yes, he was, and the strength coach
Spouting off scripture.
gives him like the big
Isaiah.
speech, and then when Sonny comes back out, and the strength coach is working out with the guy he's working out with is Tim Tebow.
Oh, they
Who's
like,
doing like
pull
the
it, jerk it. Yeah.
yeah, that's Tim
not
Tebow.
Tebow.
It is. No, it's 100% guaranteed. Yep, guaranteed.
The guy whose buddy slaps and walks away?
Yep.
No.
It is. Look it up.
Okay, I'm going to.
Okay.
But
what
they do.
is that right? They didn't like they don't deal with any of the stuff of who's top team. Like there's no Patriots talk or
Right.
there's no talk of who won the Super Bowl last year. There's none of that kind of stuff. So they remain free of the existing football timeline.
Yeah. But they did, interestingly enough, since it was just before they would have shot this movie before Peyton went to the Broncos, or right around that time. It was definitely written before. There's that whole little bit where they talk about these three particular quarterbacks who were too small or too this or too that.
Right.
And they listed, I forget who number one. Joe Montana was number one.
Yeah.
And then John Elway and then Peyton Manning. I was like, oh, okay, they got two Broncos. Go team, sort of thing. I'm looking to see if I can find Mr.
Yeah, right. Montana was too weak, wouldn't have the strength, and then Elway was too strong.
He threw too hard.
No finesse. Or Peyton Manning just wanted to do silly commercials.
Right. He just wants to do Allstate commercials or whatever.
But it was good. Yeah, they talked about Brady going in like the 4th round versus Ryan Leaf being the number 1 pick versus that kind of stuff where it's like today is it's 100% about the agents and money. Because you could have a 1st round draft pick that is traded in the 1st year.
Right.
Or gets cut or it was the Browns. What's that kid's name?
I was looking up people.
Johnny Manziel.
Their first round.
Manziel, who was like, he's going to be the golden boy. And then he made some errors.
Right.
Be nice. He made some mistakes and he's no longer, they're surfing around. And they got Mayfield now, but it was like, they were on a little bit of a stint there where it was like draft and fire, draft and fire, draft and fire. So it happens. And that's what the whole point of it is like, you're going to stress out for something in 2 years that isn't even going to matter.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy town.
But
I do remember when I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when they had the draft and everyone's like, oh, it's going to be the Ohio State running back or the wide receiver from Cal or this quarterback. And it was like a guard.
Right.
Was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh God, no, what? It's amazing. They nailed that part of how
the thing they needed.
Yeah.
They did nail that part of how like 1 pick cascades the whole draft. Just because then they nailed it, right? Like, wait, why didn't you pick Callahan? And he told me, he's like, it's a character thing for me. And even to the end of it, you don't know the full story, but you do get the sense of like,
all you know is he just had a rough birthday. That's all you really know. And
well, even that one,
kept
that
$100.
story is funny too, because it's truly like the 2 sides of the same story kind of thing. So the story for the listeners is that they're doing their background investigation on Bo Callahan to see what's up with him, and the security officer for the Browns finds out that on Bo Callahan's 21st birthday, a bunch of people in Wisconsin found out, so they went to the same bar. A ruckus ensued. When the cops got called, the cops showed up and they took down the names of everyone who was there. But here's the big but guess whose names weren't there? And the twist of that story was that none of Bo Callahan's teammates were on the list of people cited to being at this party. So that brings into question, like, if you're so great, why did no one go to your birthday party? So that's when he calls Sam Elliott, which is great. He's like, hey, I got to ask you about this birthday party. And then the coach, and it's a fair and probably truthful argument. It was like, what sounds more realistic, that nobody went, or that the local police realized who it was that was there and were like, you know what, we're not gonna write up the Wisconsin Badgers football team for this. You guys just go home. It's a very Texas football type thing of like, listen, you boys just get on out of here, yada yada. But then I do love at the very end, like the final tipping point for Costner was he asked him point blank. And this is after the revelation of another thing by the security guy, that teams would send out playbooks with $100 bill strapped to the back. And most guys would be like, yeah, I read your playbook. And then they're like, I saw the money. Some guys would be like, I read your playbook. Well, what about the money? And they're like, oh, you know what? I didn't read it. But then Bo Callahan was like, nope, no money. And they're like, no, we're pretty sure there was money there. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? There was money. Yep, totally. You got me. But then that comes back into the final call where they pair the 2 stories together, where Costner calls him on draft day and is like, I need to know, did your team go to your football party? And then this is the Bo Callahan lie of, I really don't remember much of that night. So it sealed that in of like, this isn't gonna work.
He's a
like,
douche canoe.
Yeah, it's like this just
Don't
isn't
put
gonna
him
work.
on your team.
I thought it was also really funny too, where there's a discussion when they started the investigation. There's like a website built by college girls that were sleeping with Bo Callahan, which is like, wow, that's definitely not something that happens in 2021.
Right.
But then the other part was that he's on draft day and he's definitely got like his girlfriend with him the whole time. And it's like, ooh, I wonder if she knows about the site.
Right.
Or is on this.
Callahan.
I thought that was super funny. That it was like, somebody went to Wisconsin and got her MRS degree. That's adorable.
Yeah. So watch it. Watch it if you want to watch. Well, it's a good time to watch a football movie too. It's football, just about the peak of football season. It's exciting.
And so the last thing I'll quickly say about it is it follows that formula of a sports movie very well, where it's like instead of him being the coach and you're going through the games and the season leading up to the final season, it's all one day, but still those same kind of beats. They just jam it. So that's where they're like, he has all these things happening to him. What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
And then you get to draft day itself is the game when he pulls off the miracle, where he gets 2 first-round draft picks and gets all of his other picks for the future back, and you're like, wow, it's the big the underdog won.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
And now the Browns are winners. Better than Denver.
Every time people would be like, oh yeah, but the agents are like, hey, it's the Browns. They're like, oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Hello, sir. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of people up until this year would be like, it's the Browns. Be like, tell them I'm not here.
Wasn't that one of the big like controversies 2 or 3 years ago when it was I think it was the Browns, or it was like the Dolphins or the Jaguars, where like everyone was predicting that a Heisman quarterback was going to be the number 1 pick, and he was like, yeah, I might have slowed down in the combine so that my stats weren't that good. So I wasn't the number 1. Like, I don't want to play in Jacksonville. Like, ugh.
Well, that's
I thought that was like the big controversy.
That's the rough part, though, about being a great player or a Heisman Trophy winner and stuff like that, is that you're gonna go to the worst team, and so that's sucks. And that's why so many players, I think, wash out, because you're carrying a team on your shoulders. You don't have anything to back you up.
41-year-old Tom Brady went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now they're in the Super Bowl, so I don't want to hear.
They got like Hall of Famers on the team right now.
I'm just kidding.
Are you kidding me? Bruce Arians is but it sucks. I mean, but I think that it's also that's what happens to a lot of quarterbacks in particular. But if you look at the draft, it was like was it the 82 draft, the one where Dan Marino, John Elway went, and John Elway was the number 1 quarterback drafted overall. And even back then, he was like, so it's the Indianapolis Colts. They're the worst team in the league. They're terrible. Or was it Baltimore at the time? Whichever it was.
The Baltimore Colts?
Yeah, maybe. They were terrible, terrible, terrible. And he said, I'm not playing for the Colts. They're going to draft me, but I'm not playing for them. I'm going to go play for the Yankees, who also drafted me in baseball.
Yeah.
And so the Colts drafted him, and he said, cool, baseball it is. And so over the course of the day, they managed to make a trade with Denver to get John Elway to Denver, and who Denver drafted first pick of the first round, ended up going to Indianapolis. Or maybe it took a few days, because the poor guy was like a defensive player, I think. Immediately flew to Denver because Denver drafted him. So the whole deal wasn't in place yet. He goes to Denver and meets people, and people are super excited because he's a star player and he's going to make this team
he's like
great.
Devontae Mack, yeah.
Yeah, and people are super excited. He's like, I'm signing autographs. It's like the weather's nice. All this guy's like spring. And then next thing you know, he's like, hey, you've been drafted already to Indianapolis. And he like gets
we traded you already.
Yeah, shipped out to the Colts stadium. And he's like, I got there and nobody was even there to like greet me at the stadium. It was like I didn't even know where I was. Like I never heard of this place before, you know. Yeah, it was cold.
I didn't know
Poor
there
guy.
were so many tumbleweeds in
Yeah.
Indianapolis, but that minute there were many.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting one too, not to belabor the point, but that particular draft is so interesting because Dan Marino is probably arguably like the second best quarterback in the draft, but he was like the 5th quarterback drafted by the Dolphins. And he went to Pitt. He was from Pittsburgh, or at least from Pennsylvania. And so it was expected that they were going to pick him because this is, you know, Terry Bradshaw days were coming to a close or had been coming to a close. So there's like they needed a revamp, and Pittsburgh drafted a defensive player instead. And what's interesting is that defensive player, I think in the 6th game or whatever, had like bought, you know, some really fancy car, went out driving completely hammered and got to a wreck and basically paralyzed him for life. So the guy that they drafted first round, first pick, played 6 or 7 games for them and he was done. And they could have had Dan Marino. So it's just interesting to think about how the draft situates people in their lives and also just affects teams so greatly. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's and they didn't come out right and say it, but they alluded to the fact that like one of the reasons that he was able to cut the deal was because it dropped their draft position, which meant it left them room in the salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get Bo Callen at 1, you get him at 7. You shave $7 million off of his deal, and they all kind of look at each other like, you know, he's got a good point right there.
Yeah,
You know, so it does. Right. It's all about the agents and the financial situation of the teams. It's unfortunately not about the players at all, because there are first rounders that are still wearing like the 3rd string jersey today. Like I just saw a thing this morning about Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Green Bay drafted a quarterback 2 years ago, 1st round. He's still the 3rd string quarterback.
Right.
So it's like, and now on the flip side of that, you could pay me $1 million to be a 3rd string quarterback. I'm fine with if that's what we need to do today.
And also
let's
learning
do it.
the system from Rodgers. You know, it's like that grooming. It seems like they're a lot more fine maybe now than before to say, hey, it's the new guy. You don't know Jack. Sit back, pay attention.
I think
smart teams do it.
There's
well.
definitely like there's 2 philosophies of that kind of football mentality, where you're in like a Brown situation where it's like, we need a quarterback. I'm gonna draft him and I'm gonna start him that year.
You are our
or you've got like Denver tried to do it when Manning was at the lead. They're like, well, let's draft some quarterbacks and have them study under Manning, because my gosh, you have one of the greatest quarterbacks who's probably, if he was interested, could coach any team in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of thing. They're doing that. Or like the guy with Green Bay, where it's like, listen, you're not going to start, but if you're not paying attention to what Aaron Rodgers is doing in every single meeting, we'll get rid of you. Like, I'm giving you the opportunity of a lifetime. You get to learn, maybe not play, but you get to learn from the best, as opposed to playing for Jacksonville and getting your sternum broken because they're terrible. You know, it's like that kind of thing where it's like, there's the 2 lines of, we're drafting to start because we're out, or we're drafting to train for the future. And I think that's where it is tough.
Training for the future, it's like either way, I'm sure the teams look at it as whether he ever becomes the guy for us. Who cares if we can still pitch that he's got that value to somebody else? Who's
It gives them trade position. Absolutely. Well, it's like with Chad Henne on Kansas City. I don't know what his contract situation is. I don't know what any of that looks like, but the performance that he put on in the playoffs this year, if anything, doubled his value for a team that might be like, hey, Kansas City, let's talk. You know, can we, what can we do? What can we do for you that you can do for us, kind of thing?
Same thing with like Andy Dalton this year with Dak Prescott going down. Because Dalton's always been one of those guys that was just like a great player who just, you know, he was a Nolan Ryan. He just never he didn't have a good team at the Bengals. And so being the backup to Dak Prescott in Dallas made sense, because then Dak goes down, he breaks his leg. And so now they've got a starting quarterback who's an actual starting quarterback. And so that upped his value as well. stepping in and playing fairly well for teams to say, oh, maybe we should think about him as our starter. So
Yeah, the business of sports management and specifically football management
it's fascinating.
It's insane. There's so many. You could have the best laid plans, and then you're right. The guy gets into a car wreck, and it's over.
It's done.
Yeah, you need a lot of luck.
Mm-hmm. Well, folks, thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Nerds podcast, episode 36, Draft Day. We're now going to be switching into Nerds After Dark, where we'll be catching up on the events of the week and all the things that we've been watching. So thanks for listening. Catch us on Apple, Spotify, all the other places. And, if you got a second, go over and subscribe to us on YouTube, where we've got 12 subscribers who we love, but we could use a few more. It would be great. So
I subscribed.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, folks. We'll switch over to Nerds After Dark.
13 in a minute. Give Eric a second.
Three of them are at least my 3 YouTube accounts. So, all right, folks, have a great week. We'll see you next week. And now it's time for Nerds After Dark, sponsored by Zima Pure Clear Malt.
I don't know about
Drink
pure.
one and barf.
I mean, it's a clear
And
malt,
then
but I don't know about
watch
pure.
your dog lick it off the cement.
Yeah.
Zima. The second time up, your dog will love it.
Yeah. Dogs love barf. Perfect.
I always love when I see
Wow.
a commercial that's like about dog food, and they're like, "Look, our boy loves this food." It's like, have you seen a dog attack a pile of barf? Because they attack it like it's a gourmet. Like this is the best thing I've ever had in my life. Blah blah.
Didn't
What is
we
it like?
used to do
Blue
that?
Bison. That's like, we only provide all natural ingredients. Our number one ingredient is meat. Like,
Barf.
yeah, no, barf's made of meat too.
You remember the impression of dogs eating barf we used to do? Because dogs always have that moment where they pause and then they go back to the food. Do it. Do the impression.
Whatever. Yeah. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. And they pause. Yum.
Food. Look, food.
It's like Buster does this thing where he
Yeah, I haven't been around a dog for a hot minute. So
and then blah, and then he'll look up at me and then he'll be like like kind of like watching me from the side eye, being like, don't worry, I'll eat it, I got this.
It's like, keep me safe from predators while I hide my scent. Nom, nom.
There was some freshly eaten barf actually on the floor last night, and because you could tell because it was like
I guess you like the outline.
there was the outline of it, and it was actually the outline of a penis and balls. It was kind of funny, and then there was just like little smattering of chunks that he didn't finish off. So yeah,
Sufficient.
yeah, nothing
But
that
yeah,
a little
I
foam
just,
can't
I
take
don't
care
know.
of.
If I ever had a dog food, I'd be like, it's some stuff. It's a dog. He'll eat it. Buy our crap. Who cares?
Yeah.
Game over.
I get fancy stuff for my dogs.
No, you should, because they're mammals, and we're all machines.
It's true. Efficient machines.
Just wait till
That's
you get
why
a
I drink motor
geriatric
oil.
dog.
Yeah, I know, right? How old's Daisy?
Daisy just hit 14.
Oh wow.
So she's got minimal teethage,
Mm-hmm.
and she's deaf,
Oh.
and the eyesight's still there, sense of smell is still there, but yeah, the deafness is it's been there for a bit, but she's still kind of getting used to, like, she hasn't gotten to that super head on a swivel stage yet. We're always looking for stuff because things, so like you can scare her a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's gotten to that stage where you think, be like, it's just food, eat it. No, she'll walk up to food and be like, and then step away like, what is this poison
Right.
that you have given to me? Like, and if Andrea feeds her, doesn't matter. But if I feed her, sometimes she gets real cautious about
So
it.
why
really
is
cool.
this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's
That's
the
hilarious.
backstory there?
No, there's no, that's the thing. There's no,
No, there's no backstory.
yeah, but she'll sit it down and she'll look at me very suspiciously, like, 2 days ago this was the same food and you had no problem. What are you doing? Or like, yeah, one week she'll love a certain food, and then the next week it's just like, this is slut. This is toxic waste you've put on my plate. And then the one that she wouldn't touch, she's like, blah, 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 blah. So she's real hard to keep track. We can't just like one and done food wise. We've got to mix it up.
She likes her Taco Tuesdays or whatever.
Yeah. But
Oh, Taco Tuesday. I was just checking in to see if the Clubhouse thing was working. I can't tell because if I put it in my headphones, I can't hear anything. So I have to find someone who's also on Clubhouse. Well, I get 2 invitations because it's invite only right now, but it's also only on iPhone, Eric. So unfortunately, I can't invite you.
No, I didn't even have to say that you probably should go with me.
didn't even have to
You know
come
me.
up with a lie for this.
But I'll invite you, Nico. Maybe I should do that. Nico, let me invite you, and then you can jump on and see if it's working. How great would that be?
This is perfect, and I'm gonna pee while you guys do this.
Okay. This is going to be really fun for all of us.
For the listeners, Eric did leave the room. He didn't just like pull up an empty Gatorade bottle.
It is interesting though because it's not like it's good, but it's not super intuitive in terms of how it's laid out. Like right now, I'm gonna try to find how to add a person,
Okay.
and it's really, really hard. So I've done it a couple of times, and it's really hard to find out how to do this.
Well, it's bad too because a
followers.
lot of times the things will be like, just let us have access to your contacts. Like, no, thank you.
Right, there's
No,
that
no, please,
too.
no, please do not. No.
But see, I prefer that because at least I know what I'm doing. Just
Oh,
tell
so
me.
you're the monster that's spreading that. Okay, great.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But see, I don't know where it is on here to find you.
Is it under? Do you have like a profile, and then under your profile is like friends or contacts or links or buddies or?
So I
Clubhouse
found
mates?
it through the. So, okay, here we go. I found you. You have 2 friends on Clubhouse, Nikhil. Okay, I just invited you,
Oh boy,
and then you're gonna get a text in just a moment, and that
there it is.
is gonna be reminding you. But the only way I could find that is by going to the messages. It's very weird. I don't really understand it. But you might have to like set it up and all that kind of stuff. So if it's too much, we'll just try it next week.
Yeah, it's asking me to do it. I'll do it
Yeah.
next week. It's
Just do
asking
it
for a download and that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, do it all next week. So, all right, Clubhouse. No, I'll just let it roll. Why not? It's not draining my battery or anything. Nico, you've been on like a movie tear though. It looks like you've been watching a lot of things.
I've been trying to amp it back up. I know at the beginning of the year, I made a video where I said I was going to watch, just kind of go back through my library of my favorites because I for listeners, I still do a gut reaction video where as soon as I get done watching a movie, I do just like the gut reaction synopsis, which where my rating system comes from, all that kind of fun stuff. But with theaters being closed and stuff, that has definitely slowed down. But I still enjoy doing it, even if nobody watches something, which is fine.
Right.
Because it always makes me happy when somebody does say that they watched a movie because of my review on it, or
Feels
they're like,
good.
"Hey, we love watching your stuff." I'm like, "I didn't know, but great, thank you." So yeah, I just wanted to get back in the swing of watching stuff that I had meant to watch, but had kind of backburnered for other things.
Mhm.
So specifically, just recently, I watched a new film called Shadow in the Clouds and a oldish film, a Netflix original called Death Note. And so
Death Note. That's
Yeah.
right. That's a weird movie.
yeah, well, it's
It's based
also
on a
an-
Japanese movie.
right. It's based off of a manga, like a Japanese graphic novel
Mhm.
that has a huge following, and rightly so. It's a very, very interesting story. But I know when Netflix bought it and converted it, people just dumped on it.
Yeah.
Because I think the source material is so loved, and people are so ingrained in it and have created their own side stories and perceptions
Yeah.
and world that when they quote unquote like Americanified this movie, people are like, just immediately couldn't get past the whitewashing. They were just like, nope, hate it. I hate
Scarlett
this all.
Johansson, no thank you.
It was kind of, I think
Kinda,
it
yeah.
was literally like that kind of thing. I think it came out like 2015 or 2016, something like that. Where right, it was one of the first Netflix originals, and right, people were just so mad at the whitewashing they didn't give it a shot. So I had backburnered it for that reason. But I just watched it the other day because I was like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
watch this thing finally. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
The
it's fun.
story's super good,
Yeah,
and it's like
super weird, but
It's mega weird, but it's well thought out. Like the original source material is very, very good. And while they may have, diverged from the source material because a graphic novel is not going to translate to film, it's going to give you storyboards, which is great, but you can't one-to-one it across. You
Well,
can't do like a Sin City Frank Miller
unless
type
you're
thing.
unless you're Robert Rodriguez, you can do it.
Yeah.
But.
But no, I dug it. It's like I said, it's just supernatural enough, and it's just kooky enough without over explaining itself. They're like, I had a good time with this.
Mm-hmm.
But Shadow in the Cloud, oh god,
What's that? Is that the what's his name?
no, it's
I'm just gonna call him Bill Murray. That's
it's
not the
got-
Clooney one.
no, that's Midnight Sky.
Midnight
I did watch
Sky.
that one as well. No, Shadow in the Cloud is the one with Chloe Grace Moretz, where the pitch is that she has orders to transport a package on a B-2 bomber that's on a mission. It's from the New Zealand Film Commission, so it's a little different. But they're delivering something to New Zealand, and she gets her way onto this B-2 flight. And this is the early day of the Women's Air Corps kind of thing. So women weren't allowed on planes. They thought it was bad luck, et cetera, et cetera. So the movie is billed as a creature horror film, because there was not old, but the tale of Gremlins, which was not propaganda, but training material used by the U.S. government to be like, hey, we're going to call them Gremlins, but it's really you just not quite doing your job right.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let you doing your job become a gremlin. Don't cause our airmen harm because you didn't quite do your
Tighten
job.
all those bolts.
Yeah, tighten the bolts kind of thing. So it has a gremlin in it. It's there. It's absolutely a creature horror film. And I was like,
Is
cool.
it Stripe? Which gremlin?
Right. No, it would have been the one that
Was
flies.
it the one that kisses?
No, it's the one that flies.
Dress?
Yeah.
The one that ejects the lady off of the seat, the stair seat.
Yes.
Decon.
But it has a subplot that I want to spoil it because I don't want people to watch this movie.
Ah.
But I
Do it.
don't want to
Spoiler
spoil
alert.
it because it was such a left turn that it immediately took me out of the movie. Like I finished it, but I didn't want to because I'm not the demographic.
That's rare for
it.
you.
Yeah. And I was.
What do you mean you're not the demographic? It all sounds like it's like if it's a thriller or horror movie or whatever.
But you were saying the dressing was what made you think it was for you. But
Yeah,
'Cause
it
it was
was
World
kind of
War
like
II.
it's kind of like how Coyote Ugly was advertised as like a guy's movie, like go see girls dance at a bar.
Yeah.
Then you find out it's this really sappy love story underneath it. That's like a chick flick underneath, and you're like, nah, man.
I never
got
saw that.
drugged
I've
to
been
this.
to a Coyote Ugly in Denver. It's not as advertised, by the way. Yeah.
There was one here, the same kind of thing. We were like, oh, and all right.
Well, I guess actually.
Well, yeah, I mean,
They got it
I guess.
Right, yeah, nailed it.
Coyote Ugly. Yep.
It's more like Coyote
I could talk about
6-ish.
the twist if you want of why it threw me off so bad.
I'll never watch it, so spoiler alert, folks.
Yeah, all right. So
Are
if
you gonna
you're
watch
intend
it,
on
Eric?
watching
Good
Shadow in the
movies.
Cloud, probably wait like 10 minutes and then come back. So the kitsch of the story is she gets paperwork in a package. She gets on this plane, and of course they're very like 1940s guys about you got these dames on airplanes, and they're like super misogynistic and stuff.
World
So they
War
put
II?
her-
Americans?
World War II. Yeah.
Okay.
So they put her down in the ball turret because there's not enough seats. I mean, B-2s weren't built for people transport, right? If you were on the plane, you had a seat.
B-17 is a B-2.
One of the two. It was one of the
That's the one that
flying
had the ball
fortresses.
turret.
Those are
That's
very,
just like-
very different airplanes, Nico.
Yeah, B-17's the
Probably
ball
B-17,
turret,
yeah.
Flying Fortress.
The B-2 is just like a straight up
Oh, that's the bomber.
the nuclear
Sorry.
B-17 was a bomber as well, but
It was the Flight Fortress. So it had the front gunner, had the two pilots,
Yeah,
had
it's the
the
B-17.
top turret, the bottom turret, the
We're gonna
guy in
look
the
it up
back.
just
Had
in
the
case.
little death circle, right? Was that
Yeah,
the
it
one
had the
that was
death
just
ball. Yeah,
death
yeah, yeah.
ball? Yeah, 'cause you
Right.
couldn't
So
get
it's
out
that.
of it.
So whatever that plane is, my apologies to the World War II aficionados out there. But anyway, she gets dumped down into there. And while she's down in there, she can't take this package with her, which is like, it's billed as top secret and classified. And you're like, oh, this is really interesting. And then while she's down there, she sees the gremlin. She literally sees the gremlin and tells them, and they're like, these chicks are making stuff up. She's going crazy in the ball turret. Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. And then it starts tearing the plane up and she fires a gun at it. And they're like, wait, how did you get a gun? And then the plane starts falling apart. And then, so this is where the story turns. They think that whatever is causing the plane to malfunction is this package. Like it's got mind control or a hallucinogen or something. So they open the package and it's a baby. She
is it a Yoda baby?
He forged paperwork to get onto the plane of her ex-lover, who's the father of the baby, to get her and the baby away from her current husband, who is a spousal abuser. That's the freaking story.
So it's 3 men and a baby on the
Well, yeah, it's like 8 dudes and a baby, and then you add this gremlin to it, and then you're like, wait, what? Like, it takes such a left turn into this like smuggling a baby away from an abuser.
What's the tone of the movie though? Is it kind of tongue in cheek? Is it a little bit goofy?
No, it's like serious.
Like straight laced, like this is how it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
With
And
the
then
gremlin.
and then it's
Is the gremlin stay in? Is it like a character
Yeah,
or is it
that's the
just
thing.
like
Does he learn to
a
love the
mirage?
baby?
it's in it through the whole movie, and it attacks her.
Does it turn
her,
into a nurse gremlin?
It does steal the baby twice. And
Okay.
it takes out her ex-lover, and they're like, he's gone, and she's like, and then and then they get attacked by like zeros, so they're under combat, but the gremlin's still messing stuff up, and they shoot the gremlin, and a guy falls out of the airplane, and the captain dies, and she crashes the plane, and then they're on this like little island in the middle of nowhere. Eric, you're gonna love this movie.
I'm thinking I'm loving it.
And then they get on it, and then she shoots the gremlin and it falls down, but then they get down and they're like doing the whole high five, like we made it, and then it shows up and it takes the baby, and she like tears her sleeve off, chases it down, and just beats the crap out of it in the water. I mean, this is probably for you.
This is an amazing movie.
It says 2020 is when it came out. It came out last
Yeah,
year.
it's brand new.
Something up in the air.
Shadow in the Clouds.
What's it called? Chloe Grace Moretz in the air. Let's do it.
Yeah, Shadow. It's on Amazon Prime to rent.
Oh my goodness.
Shadow in the Clouds. You'll probably love it. Now that I think about it, this is up your
Yeah,
alley.
like, this is for me.
My friend Drew just
Oh God.
put on here. He was like, "Damn it! Now I'm watching this now." I was like, "Yeah, apparently we all are." This sounds awesome.
Yeah. So then, there's that, and then I watched Midnight Sky, which is George Clooney. I don't think he wrote it, but he directed it and starred in it.
And Chloe Grace Moretz and the Gremlin.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it was
Every
It was a-
movie in 2020.
it was a
Let
pretty,
me guess. A gremlin's
movie.
in it.
Yeah.
Just one.
but it was
The mother-in-law.
It was just bad. It was bad too.
Well, the trailer, not trailer, but Netflix is weird in their algorithm, or not even algorithm. I don't know what they're doing, but like when you hover on something on your smart TV, your Apple TV,
like
or whatever you have,
45
it'll
seconds.
play something. And sometimes it plays a trailer, but sometimes it plays a scene. And in this Netflix movie starring George Clooney, it plays a scene. And it's so boring, it makes you not want to watch the movie. I was like, this is the most boring preview I've ever seen of a movie. So apparently the whole movie is like that, huh?
Well, it does nothing new. So it's not very original or creative by any stretch of the imagination. There's an interesting twist, but it's definitely one of those like, yep, seen it. So not a surprise.
Mhm.
And then it's like,
Yep, we're really on Mars.
yeah, it's like, I think I compared it to, it's like Ad Astra, Interstellar, and Passengers. It's like those three movies smashed together. Maybe a little bit of like The Martian in there too, but it's like there's nothing new here. The gist of the story is that George Clooney discovers, and this pisses me off, a previously unknown moon of Jupiter. Get the fuck out of here. So he finds this moon that all of a sudden he thinks can support life.
What year is it?
It takes place in like the current year, I think is like 2049, but the year that this happens is like nowish. Because there's a guy who plays George Clooney where they definitely had George Clooney read his lines and then have it dubbed over this guy. So they didn't try to youngify George Clooney. They found a
should've
young
just
actor
done
and then
that.
put George Clooney's voice out of it. Right.
They should have. It should have been like Boss Baby.
Yeah. Right.
That's
But
CGI
then-
baby,
Been
not
great.
Yeah. Then
George Clooney's voice.
so they have this planet so that there's he sends off a bunch of people to go gather information about it, like, is it viable, can we do this, whatever. But all the while that's happening, the earth rapidly accelerates in its deterioration. Like there's a nuclear radio cloud, they're
Oh no.
sending people to the moon and stuff to like evacuate. They're
Jeffy.
sending people to this moon before we've even determined that it's safe, just because Earth is not safe. So they're like, you know what, it can't be any worse. And then
100 billion Jeffy.
he's
moments.
like,
Yeah, I know.
he has something, and they never really say if it's like cancer, but he does like blood transfusions, which easily could be like due to the radiation or whatever. But he stays behind to be like, since it's kind of his project, so that he can communicate with these groups as they come back, basically saying, don't land, just turn around. Like you can't land here. But then it falls apart because, like I said, where it's like Passengers and stuff is that you get his view from Earth, and he gets a momentary bit of contact with one of these ships as it's coming back, but he needs a stronger satellite or a stronger dish. So he does this like Nordic journey to try to get it. And of course, like he finds a shelter and then the ice melts and he almost drowns, like all that standard ice nonsense.
Yeah.
And then of course he gets there and they make communication, but then they show it from their end too, where something happens and they drift off course and they're in uncharted territory and the ship gets smashed with an ice storm. And it's like all this, just like, I've seen all of this before.
Does he have to get the contraption to work by using his gum to stick two things together?
No, but yes, but no,
but yes.
Well, there's another part. So the spoiler, if you guys, I don't know if I should, the spoiler with that one is that he, at the beginning of the movie, while
Spoiler
they
alert.
show him managing the evacuation of his station, and there's a mom who's like, have you seen Carolyn or something like that, and they're like, yeah, she's definitely on a transport, she's good to go. And then George Clooney asked the pilot, like, are you taking a list? He's like, no, man, I'm just putting people on a plane, like I'm not keeping a list. And then as George Clooney's like by himself, he starts to think he's getting forgetful. Like he sees an extra bowl of cereal sitting out on the lunch table one day and he's like, well, it must be mine, and pours it in, eats it. And then also there's like a fire in the kitchen and he puts it out. And then when he sits down, there's like a little girl slumped in the corner, like, I'm left behind.
Oh. And then a commence boring scene on Netflix.
And then
preview.
commence the standard, like, who are you,
Yeah.
Newt? I don't know. I've been on the space station for months. You know, that kind of stuff. So it's like,
Right.
again, it's all these like pre-existing, already been explored ideas and tropes. And they're like, we'll just take 80% of all these and smash it together. And
So
make a
it's
movie.
like Oblivion, that movie.
Ah.
yeah.
That's a good example of another movie that did that. Did you like 2001? Did you like every Moon? Did you like every other sci-fi movie before
Right.
this? Well, we've repackaged it into one
Don't worry,
movie.
we got you.
Mhm.
We took the best parts and smashed them together.
It's called Welcome to Earth.
Welcome to Earth, idiot.
Yeah. So yeah, I was glad that that Death Note was pretty solid, because Midnight Sky was a little bit of a letdown, and then Shadow in the
More of
Clouds
a
was
brown note.
was just like a come on.
Yeah.
And then Death Note was good. So I was like, oh, that's good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
See, I felt kind of a little bit meh about Death Note when I watched it, but it just isn't my movie. It's like not my thing, not my style.
That's totally
So I
fair.
was just kind of like,
yeah.
meh, yeah, like monsters and paranormal and I was just kind of like, meh, I'm good with it. But yeah,
It's also better. It's probably better now because some of the people that came out of it are something now. When that first came out, they weren't. Because like the girl in Death Note is the hippie Manson chick from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
oh yeah,
And then like the guy who plays his father, who's in charge of the private investigation or the investigation, the special unit, is that guy who plays the guy in everything on HBO. It's I can't remember his name. It's like Shea Whitman or something like that. But he was in Perry Mason and
I'll look him up here.
the show about Nucky Thompson, Boardwalk. Anyway, he's in everything.
Steve
but then
Buscemi?
even the no, not Steve Buscemi, his brother, the sheriff,
And keep a Chevy.
Willem Dafoe? No, he was the voice of the thing. That one really like I didn't like that. That was just too famous
The
of a
voice.
voice to play that.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, he was the voice of like the
Ryuki,
monster.
the demon,
Yeah.
or the death god. If you
I'm
will.
not finding who you're talking about.
So what is the Death Note?
Oh, Shea Wiggum. Yeah.
Shea
I
Wiggum.
got you.
The Death Note is it's an ancient tome that has yes, and it's basically a journal that finds the saddest POS in the world and gives them the ability to write down somebody's name and choose their death. So you kill people. So like it starts out with but it's also it's like it was kind of like the Wonder Woman thing where like every gift has a cost. So it's run by this death god Ryoki, who is kind of like the Loki trickster of like he's kind of pressuring him like, hey, put a name in the book. Come on, you know you want to. So he like puts the bully because he thinks it's nonsense. So he puts down the bully's name, and then he puts like decapitated, and then this shows this like what's the name of the movie where the guy predicts all the deaths? Final Destination. It's kind of like this Final Destination Rube Goldberg death machine that decapitates this guy. And then he's like, oh, it worked. And then there's the kid's backstory, at least in the movie, is that like his mother was killed by like the son of a gangster or something like that. But because he was connected, he got away with it. So then he puts that guy's name down, and then he starts getting into this like pseudo vigilante thing of like, wait. I can kill for good, if that makes sense. He's like, there are bad people that need to be punished. I now have the mechanism to do it. But then of course, he's like the loser. So he meets this girl and they kind of fall in love and they have their own little thing. And then they create this, it's not a vigilante, but it's like a, because they call him Lord, but it's this character named Kira, which in Japanese means death, I think, or something like that. But in some other languages, it means light. So he's like, oh, it's super clever. They'll think it's some guy from Japan, which is kind of like a nice little knock on the original source material. But then he starts having, because when he kills them, he can control them. So he starts having them write, Kira killed me because I did this. Like people are writing stuff, confessing their crimes and then dying and stuff. And then it has like the whole Batman thing where people are like, yo, this is an unchecked vigilante. We can't have this kind of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's murder Batman. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So that's why I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a 3, but it was like, I wasn't mad at it. And I know people that were just flat mad at it because I guess it does shift from the source material, but having just casual awareness of the source material didn't make me mad at the movie because I thought the construction and the story was like, this is cohesive. Like I'm not mad. It's got some twists I wasn't expecting. I like it. That's entertaining.
Needed 2 more gremlins and then it would have been great.
Yeah,
At
more
least.
mini grems.
At least, and a baby.
And a baby.
2 grems and a baby.
Did you get to watch anything else this week, Eric? Or enjoy yourself in any way?
I did. No, I don't enjoy myself anymore.
Oh. Any bumbling?
No. There's someone that
You lit up for a second.
Oh, well, it's funny because that same day last week, like someone else responded to me after a week of nothing,
Right.
but didn't like bat the, bat the ball back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just went,
LOL.
no, it wasn't even that. It was, what was it? Oh, on her profile, she's like, sometimes when people can't think of what to say, then they use hey, 3 things that I'm lying to you about right now, whatever. And it's, what was this one? It was like, we'll get along if. She went, do you like Star Trek? So I'm like, well, okay. She put Star Trek. So I'm like, what's your favorite Star Trek show or movie, whatever? And then nothing for a week, and then she's like, oh, I mean, I don't know, I'm not really like Star Trek specific, I just like sci-fi. But then that was it.
Yeah.
There wasn't like a follow-up question, so I'm just like, so it's been sitting there for a week, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
that one's funny.
I like travel and gourmet cooking and reading. No, you don't.
Yeah. It's
You
always
don't like
travel.
any of those things.
Travel's
Knock it
always
off.
on the list.
What's your favorite food? I mean, whatever.
Do you like bread?
No.
Sucks Subway.
I had one of those a million years ago in LA, and it was like the texting was just on fire. Like the messaging back and forth was just great, and it was just like interests and everything was just like cool, and like it was witty banter, and it was like going great and everything. And then so like maybe a weekend finally got together to meet, and for one it was just like in-person conversation was just dead, D-E-D, dead. So clearly she needed a hot second to like think about stuff. That's why the texting was so great. And then it's like a moderate amount of physical catfishing, like just a little bit. Like the pictures were a little bit of a lie, and so there was that too.
Like they're her,
Someone
but,
else?
yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely her, but they're either older or she's really cut those angles like really well.
Or is it like
So-
where it's all group photos
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're trying to find the matching one in all
Which
the
one
photos?
are
Like
you?
that's okay. And then,
Yeah.
but
And then her
there's
hair's
no
changed
similar-
colors 3 times throughout, and you're like, oh man, you're
Yeah.
like Sherlock Holmes by the time you're done.
and tongue rings, and yeah, you never know what you're gonna get. But it was just so
Let me
boring.
guess, the one with the tongue ring,
Yeah.
showing me the tongue ring. Which one in this group? I'm gonna guess the one showing me the tongue ring.
Yeah. Oh man, those are some good ones. Do you remember the?
I'll never have something that entertaining again.
No. Well, you never know. I think I told you guys about the actress. So this would have been like right when I moved to LA, and so this was like in the non-app days. This is when online dating was still online dating. It was still like
Oh, right.
you had to
right.
have like a desktop thing, and I think it was OkCupid or something like that. And yeah, it just matched with this like really attractive. We'll call her brunette. we'll mask the identity of those involved. And I was like,
I don't think you have
well,
to go that deep.
yeah, right.
Well, maybe you do, depending what else
Maybe
you say.
she was a redhead. So, but she had like headshots were her pictures. So I was like, okay, clearly like actor, and just like really into it. I was like, this is great, and met up at her place after this really strange interaction of messaging where it's like, I said, well, let's go to dinner at this place because I'd lived there before, so I knew it. I was like, let's go to here, and she was like, sounds great. And then like hours before we were supposed to, she was like, I have like some social anxiety. You want to just come over to my house? And I was like, sounds like a sure thing. Let's do this. So head over to her house and get there, and it's like literally under the highway. Like, I don't know how that was physically possible, but like the freeway is here and the house is like just barely kind of tucked underneath the overpass. It's like,
Nice.
and it's up on stilts. It was just a very strange house. And she's like, oh, I'm up here. So go up there. And she's like, do you want some wine? Because on my thing, I said like I'm a sommelier. So she's like, I have some wine. I was like, yeah, okay. Like, well, I just moved in here, so I don't have any wine glasses. So she pulls out like the little bathroom cups, like the little
Dixie cup.
silo Dixie
Nice.
cups. Yeah, the little plastic ones. And she pours the wine in. I take a drink of it, and it's the worst thing I've ever tasted. And she was like,
Just like straight
"Oh,
vinegar.
Yeah, it was left over from a party here." And I was like, "Oh, when was the party?" She goes, "It was 2 weeks ago." I was like, "Okay, so this isn't working."
So it's had time to air out. So it should be pristine.
So
ready
there
to
was just
roll.
like this. It was just sort of like that was the first like boing, first red flag kind of popping up. I was like, "Okay, this is really interesting."
It was a house on stilts under
Yeah,
the
under
freeway.
the
That's
highway.
probably-
That was probably the first
well,
one.
looking back, I have social anxiety. Can you just come to my place? I guess that's really number
Yeah,
one.
yeah, that's true. No, already
But
we were
that's
pretty
the
deep
flag that you're gonna go. I don't give a crap about that red flag.
deep in the flag weeds. But in the living room, there were two things. There was a rocking chair, and there was a TV, but like a square TV on a metal cart with an antenna. And those are the only two things in the room. So anyways, the course of the evening goes terribly, and it ends with her telling me a story about how she had just a week ago, I'll just say it, a week ago had miscarried her ex-boyfriend's baby and had jumped out of his moving car on the freeway after punching herself repeatedly in the head. So I went to the bathroom and I texted Matt and I was like, dude, I need out of here. Like, how do I get out of here? Like, what do I do? Do I just say I gotta leave? Yeah.
Help.
So I just like left eventually, get home, and the next day I've got a message on OkCupid asking me if I'd like to go out again because she thought we had really great chemistry. I didn't say a single word the whole night, by the way. It was just all stories like that. Yeah, I didn't talk. I don't know where the chemistry came in, but it was
Because she could just unload on you.
maybe
Came in the form of Xanax or lithium.
yeah. That was the
You played
first ever
therapist.
online dating experience. It was not delightful. The punching in the face part was pretty awesome. Also, I don't know if you lead with miscarriage. I don't know if that's a great dating technique.
Well, she didn't lead with it. She
That's
closed
true.
with it, right?
First
Yeah,
date.
you closed with
Yeah,
it.
she closed with it. That's a good point. I gotta give her more credit. Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah, that's a bad time. She needed,
Time
I
to
wonder if
decompress.
She needed friends.
Yeah,
I think she had
yeah,
friends out
for
there,
sure,
is what it
for
sounds
sure. Yeah.
Bow wow.
So I also watched White Tiger. Watched that last night.
So then you guys got married.
Yeah.
And
right.
had 5
And here she is. She's a Funko.
It's Don Draper.
Yeah.
What'd you watch?
White Tiger on Netflix last night. It's a Netflix movie
Sounds like it's
based on a book called White Tiger, but it all takes place in India. It's basically like a whole movie kind of about caste and stuff like that, and it's kind of yeah, exactly. It's all about that. I would guess I would call it like somewhere in that Slumdog Millionaire sort of realm, where it's not not a comedy, not a drama. It's all the things, but all wrapped up in caste and all wrapped up in poverty versus wealth and that kind of thing. And it's kind of all about a kid's sort of rise from being, low caste, like street sweeper, to owning his own business. So it was good. I really liked it. I would definitely, I love Indian stuff. Like having kind of been there, I've always been fascinated by the world. It's just a fascinating world. But yeah, it was good. It was really good. I think it just came out just recently, but based on a book by the same title.
Nice.
But, yeah, it's cool. And that, and of course, I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood again. But I watched it before I shot the Vanilla Ice commercial. I needed to watch good art before I
Right. Yeah,
went to
you
go
did
make
that.
art. Yeah, I had to
That's
get
right.
inspired. Yeah. So
Can you talk about that now, or no?
yeah, it's fine. Went well. Went really well. It was great. It was super fun. It'll premiere, of course, in the Super Bowl, which this won't. I mean, besides the live stream, it won't go out until on Sunday. But great experience and super fun. And yeah, Vanilla Ice was just a great dude. Super fun to work with. Came with a ton of ideas. Was just like really engaging and super, super, super engaging with the other actor and the crowd and everything. So I think that's what made the shoot go so well, is sort of like his energy with all the other actors
Sure.
on set. I think it just really, really blew it up. But very gracious with his time and energy and creative juices. Came up with a few just killer ideas. Raps off the top of his head, that kind of thing. Like that's the kind of dude he is. So yeah, it was super fun. Had a really good time.
Who was did you hire the extras for the audience, or those were those like members of the law firm that?
No, they were hired, but they were also we shot it at the Grizzly Rose in Denver, and they were actually also employees there. So that's kind of how we got as many as we did. We really only had 10 extras, so I had to fake a concert with about 10 people. So, but hey, nothing that a tight shot and some crowd noise can't fix, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, that's what I was going to ask. Where the question came from was like, how did you wrangle like 50, 60 people in a short amount of time?
Yeah, no, we just had about 10. Well, we probably only really had 8, and then I used Mike, the producer, and Buddy, one of my PAs, to jump back there and fill in the crowd, and then a whole bunch of Adobe Audition audio tricks to duplicate the sound and make it sound like there were like 40, 50 people there. Yeah. In a crowd, so
Nice.
which worked out well. Yeah, it was good, but it was fun. Definitely a great experience, and hopefully he's very happy with it, and it plays really well.
Do you have to put like the stuff on the end with like the law firm, the address, phone number, all that kind of extra stuff? Or
Yeah. So that's all like on the end, and then like one little tiny disclaimer, just to say like results may vary type of disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly.
On the end. Yeah, because
I don't actually write you $1 million checks, and also no, there's only one gorilla.
Yeah, but
necklace.
that's one of his. That's like his. It's the
Signature.
reputation right now that's out there. So that's where the $1 million checks came in. Was like it's actually his reputation. It's what people are saying about him in that part of Texas because they've had so many successful trials. So so that's why we used it, because it wasn't something that he made up. But then also at the end you have to say like this does not represent
All cases
your
will not result in them.
your case
Is it-
may be
Is
something
it
else.
airing is it a Colorado regional or is it?
No, it's in Lubbock, Texas.
Oh, okay, Texas.
Yeah, so West Texas. So which is kind of cool though. One of the reasons why I really wanted to do it was because it's going to be playing in Lubbock, Texas, but everybody's going to be watching the Super Bowl, anybody, but especially because that's where Mahomes went to college. So he went to
Texas Tech.
is it Texas Tech? Yeah,
I think so.
which is in Lubbock. So yeah, he went there. So that's kind of why I was like, yeah, I really want people, if people are going to see this, because everybody's going to be watching the Super Bowl because he's their boy. So get a little bit of play. Yeah. So it was fun.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing like a 24-hour turnaround. Shot it on a Sunday. We wrapped at about 4 p.m. Sunday night. Got back to the studio at about 5:15. Edited until 9, and then got back up at 5 the next morning and worked until about 1 when I had it like solid. And there it was. So
Dang.
yeah.
That's awesome,
Have you
man.
turned it in yet? Is it
Yeah.
all-
Yeah, it's all in. It's at the station. It's ready to go. I kind of screwed myself though, because I used to be able to kind of use the excuse, hey, these things take time. And it's just like,
That's not an excuse. This
yeah,
day.
now
Nope.
I can't use that because I
Well,
just turned it around in
but-
24 hours, right?
Yeah, but still, it still costs you sleep, and it costs you, it's not
Oh,
a thing
you
you
meant
can
for
just
future
endlessly do.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, for future
I
business,
thought-
yeah.
I thought about for this one. It's like
No,
the
I just mean for-
games on Sunday, whether you wanted to or not,
Yeah.
which means they need it prod ready by Friday, which means they really need it by Wednesday,
Yeah.
which means you really need to get it to them by Monday night.
Yeah. No, I just mean for future business, because it's like, I've shown that I can turn it around in 24 hours. I guess I should.
Well, you could be like
Don't
at
tell
a,
too many people that.
at a premium.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't your usual gig. So
Yeah, that's not a standard.
Right, and you also
fare.
got, I would assume, a touch more help. It wasn't just you completely solo, or maybe just with one helper, having
Right.
to put everything together
yeah,
at the shoot itself.
no, on this one, of course,
There
I
were people
had.
supplying things.
Yeah, Zach and Buddy being like the camera assistants and PAs, and then my friend Taco was, I had him come on and be the set photographer. So we need, photos and things like that. And then the producer had a whole crew for lights and for sound and for the audiovisual aspect of things. So it was definitely more of a crew than I've been working with for quite a long time. So that was pretty cool too.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
It's nice having crews when you have humans that do things and they know what they're doing, and they're
so
they're
nice.
over there doing that thing,
and
you can trust it.
So nice. Yeah, usually it's me doing all the buttons and stuff, so it's kind of cool to have a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. So
awesome.
Yeah, here's to more. Here's to more of those. So, yeah, all right. Well, what do you think? Should we wrap it up?
What'd you get up to, Eric? Did you tell us?
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't talk. I think I only watched WandaVision and half of Real Time with Bill Maher. I think that's the only things.
Yeah.
Aside from just whatever quick news during my lunch.
Are you liking WandaVision?
I wasn't crazy about this episode, but I like the wacky TV world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that stuff I've enjoyed. This one I should have liked. Did you watch it, Nico?
Oh yeah, I'm caught up. Yeah. No, I dug it. I think
Matt.
I haven't watched it yet.
I think it so it set a tone. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 set a tone of like, oh, this is kooky and weird,
and it's way over here.
Yeah, way left field. But then dips of reality. You're like, all right. This one was from the other side of the mirror of this episode was. And it's more I still think it's along the lines of a superhero Lost. And because I'm curious to see now what I have a different theory of what the new source is of WandaVision. But I'm still excited to have it play out because I think it could go in a million different directions still.
Yeah,
I don't think the ending is the ending is set clearly, but as far as story wise, I still think there's a bunch of different avenues they can go down to kind of twist and turn you through a bunch of stuff coherently and still be super entertained. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I have a friend who's also watching it, but they basically just power watched through this last weekend. So 1 through 4, and now they're on board for 5. And I was like, maybe just wait. Maybe they said wait until it's done, and then that way you can just straight through. Because
how many are there in this season?
I don't remember, 8, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember I was talking to him, and it's you've already got the experience of watching them back to back to back to back. I am in the watch and wait mode. So that's okay by me, but you've had the opposite. So maybe it's just wait another 4 weeks, and then you can power through the other 4 because it does set a different experience when you add 7 days. It's kind of like the Mandalorian. Once you have 7 days in there, edges start to get a little fuzzy, and then they get sharpened, and then they get fuzzy and they get sharpened. But when you're watching it straight through, it's sharp.
And also, I feel like the future of all this stuff is going to go back to weekly, because I just feel like every episode gets to breathe and people get to talk about one episode, where when it's a whole season that drops,
right, they just drop it. Yeah,
the same amount of energy gets put into the season, and you've essentially just made one mega episode in people's minds, and they go, I want more, and you're like, I just made a season. It's going to take 2 years,
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
I think it's probably time to drop that.
Yeah, no, I'm not mad at it, but like I said, you're absolutely right, and I think why it feels kind of like Lost is it had the same thing. It was just weird enough, but then if people talked about it, you could talk about it with people. Hey, what do you think this is? What do you think is going on here? Well, this is source material. This is what this is, or this is source material, or this is, it's not source. It's different, new. So there's the whole, you do get that week-long buzz discussion, and then bang, new episode. And then that's, again, whole nother week of churning on it versus you're absolutely right. They drop it. Did The Witcher come out on Netflix? They just dropped The Witcher.
Yeah, I think they maybe did drop
and it was the same thing of I powered through it. And now I'm come on now.
And
right, exactly.
I'm in. More, please.
Right.
But you gotta wait. So
I wonder if Netflix will ever change that about how they do it.
I can see, well, part of it is super technical because they're run on Amazon Web Services platform where it is set up for controlled and timely release, but it's not set up for consistent peaking. So like Friday peak, Friday peak, Friday peak, Friday peak. It can do that, but they're more set up for like basically like a nuclear explosion. They can ramp up hundreds of thousands of servers to manage the load, and then they need it to kind of all then back down a little bit because it's cheaper if you have like a Holocaust and then it goes down into a desert wasteland. If you have a high peak running on Amazon all the time, your bill is going to be enormous. So I think Amazon is managing the peaks because it falls into a different cost structure versus if they had like weekly releases, it would just be at this like super high plateau the whole time.
Interesting. So why is Netflix so much more seamless in terms of, and I don't know if you guys experience this because you guys probably have much faster internet than I do out in the country, but Disney's probably the biggest culprit. They can be really rough to load for some reason sometimes.
Because they're not running on, this is the other side, they're not running on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
They're running on their own structured server system, which Amazon does a great job of load balancing. That you make a request, the requests get queued, it gets distributed to resources and then down. So it takes in these peaks and valleys of load and then it dumps it down to you as fast and efficiently as possible. The Disney system is not set up that way. I shouldn't speak into it so concretely, but it doesn't have the same load balancing system that Netflix has. Because like Netflix partnered with Amazon and specifically developed software to manage this kind of a usage.
Yeah.
And Disney was like, well, no, we're Disney. We're gonna do our own thing. And everyone else is like, okay, cool. This is what it looks like then. They're like, well, all right.
So that explains why Amazon can, or why Netflix can have like those live previews as you're shopping around on the site to watch something, but Disney doesn't. HBO, I don't believe, does. Amazon actually doesn't do that though, do they? On their Amazon's got the worst interface too, though, for video for some reason. I don't know why theirs is so bad.
It's
clunky. It's super outdated.
UX designers fighting over theory is what it is. No, right. Netflix.
The HBO one is a little bit better.
Yeah, Netflix is designed to receive the request, load balance, and deliver as fast as possible. That's why when like you're hovering, and this is a thing I don't like, is in the Netflix app or on console or whatever, when you roll over something and you get a preview, sometimes that's literally the movie starting.
Right.
Like the movie is just, it has started
Notice
in the background.
that.
It's like, God, no. Versus you getting this canned like 10-second clip. So it's just usage differences. And I mean, I still like argue with like Apple TV, where when you go to search for something and it's just this one long string of letters and you've got to like mouse over to the S's because everything starts with S. Yeah. And then it's like SA, like, nah, son of a, So I know there's a better way to do that.
That's what I don't understand why they don't throw up a keyboard, but at the same time, there's two options that Apple has for you that make it better with the new generation. One is you can have your Apple TV remote on your phone, and that'll pop up an actual keyboard so you can type on your keyboard. And it actually prompts you as well sometimes. So if I go to the search, it'll prompt me on my phone and be like, oh, you can use the phone as a keyboard. But then the voice to text on Apple TV is way better than Siri on the phone. Like, it's really good. So I'll just search that way for something.
Sure.
Although I tell it to shut down verbally as well, because you don't have to go to the menu. So I just say shut down. But sometimes it thinks I say shutter, and so it brings up options for watching Shutter Island, and yeah, things like that. Or sometimes it thinks I say shooter, so to bring up the Mark Wahlberg shooter thing, like
you mean
suggested
Mark? No,
film.
I don't mean Mark Wahlberg.
If I want Mark Wahlberg, I'll ask for Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, but so you got those options, but I've never understood the vertical A B C D E F G H I J K, or the horizontal rather letters for searching. Like, just give me a keyboard, man.
Yeah, well, and
There's got to be a reason for it.
It's hard to do with just a little touchpad too,
Mhm.
because it's like, so I don't know. It's
Yeah.
There's no perfect way. It's just doing the best it can, but it is just hyper annoying.
Yeah.
That it's like, I want to search. Awesome. What do you want to watch? Have it start with a B. I don't feel like scrolling all the way to R or T.
Yeah.
Because the next letter is going to be an A. So it's like,
I guess I'm watching Shooter tonight.
yeah.
Bad news bears it is again. All right.
Yeah, right.
Abyss.
Yeah, right.
Abyss.
Every night.
Yeah. So, good stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think
the
of what's
other
coming up.
thing, that I did attempt to watch. It's not new per se. It's newer, but it's that Harmon Quest.
What's this?
What's his name? What's
Dan
his first
Harmon?
name? Dan Harmon, yes. Rick and Morty and Community, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He, I think he had a podcast, Harmontown or something, that's probably still going on. But at the end of that, they would do like a quick round of D&D.
Oh,
And so then he took that concept and he like started his own D&D. This is like maybe 2016 was the first season. Super hard to find, which is the irritating thing about it. But they bring on every week, every episode it's a new guest. So they bring on some new comedian and they come on blah, 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 blah,
awesome.
blah. And so I watched it way back when it was new, first season, and I was like, oh, I keep thinking about that show, and I go back to it and it's like, how can I watch this? Seems impossible. It's like you can see the first episode on something random,
Yeah.
and then from then on you have to go on to, and so now it's on VRV, which I had never heard of. It's season 2.
Wow.
And that talking about is, I've started up and every 5 seconds it goes loading, and then he's like, and we're welcome back, loading, and I was like, this is unwatchable.
Yeah.
And I went on Reddit, and so I went down that whole rabbit hole that we were talking about earlier tonight, just trying to watch this stupid show.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just put this on Netflix, please. Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, I did watch like the first maybe 4 or so episodes of Mythic Quest on Apple TV Plus. It's Rob McElhenney's new show. He and Charlie Day written, I think, most of the episodes, but it's cool.
I remember the ads for it.
Yeah, it's where he essentially plays like a video game creator, like a, what do you call that? The
Developer.
It's like the, what do you call the games where you're a guy and you
the
run
MMO,
around
or the RPG stuff.
Yeah, RPG stuff. You're a guy, and
That's all I needed. I knew what you were talking about.
And it's good. It's sort of Silicon Valley, esque in the cast of characters, but pretty good little movie. But it is one of those shows that there's no voice of the audience in it. It's yet another show where everyone's an idiot, and so it's just like that just gets old. You can't binge a show where everyone's a dum-dum and there's just nobody giving you any sort of relief from the stupid. So, but it's good. It's a good little move, good little show. Yeah, it's been fun. F. Murray
on the
Abraham is
radar.
in it. Yeah.
Yeah, the Harmon Quest, since I brought it up, I'll talk. So it's like I said, that's the thing. They play a little bit of D&D, and then it's animated. So then it jumps back and forth between them at the table in front of an audience. You have like a big ass audience, and they're laughing and whatever, and then it gets animated afterwards and edited very cleverly. And they're not like, they're in character, but it's not annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, whenever I watch a lot of these shows, it's like, I'm an actor. It's like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
And this show, it's like, yeah, they're doing their character, but
It's
they're
not
also
so
being
deep.
Doesn't
dry
bug ya.
and being-
Yeah.
having dry humor, and it's just Dan Harmon. It's just a higher quality, and the Dungeon Master guy for that show is like phenomenal. So
Right on.
that's that.
Cool.
Maybe I'll watch the second season.
Maybe
Like get VRV to play more than 10 seconds.
whenever
in,
it starts, whenever it stops
Yeah, right.
loading.
Get try it on my supercomputer here
My supercomputer.
with a hard connected internet.
Sometimes that's all you need. Just plug it in. I got my Apple TV plugged in just because it's easier that way. I don't have to worry. It's just hardwired in. Mm-hmm. Works
sure.
that way.
Yeah, I couldn't watch Mandalorian on my older tablet. That was running like Windows 9 anyways, or 8,
Nice.
whatever the hell
Yeah.
the older version was.
The one with the paperclip,
Clippy.
the talking paperclip. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to Nerds After Dark. We will come up with something to watch next week, and it'll be fun. You guys are gonna love it. We promise.
Not talk about dog barf.
We will talk about dog barf.
That much.
It's all we'll talk about.
We won't lead with dog barf. We'll get there. But that
Dog
won't be the
barf
intro.
and first dates of punching in the face. That's what we're leading with.
It's a band name. Called it.
Self-inflicted punches in the face. Yeah.
Right. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Find us on Apple, Spotify. Like us on YouTube. No, subscribe to us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. And eat our
Eat our
barf.
barf on Clubhouse.
Yeah, Ooh, that's going to be the new tagline. Eat our barf on Clubhouse.